Welcome to the show. This is Comics.
You guys are all watching the Artist Roundtable.
Hey everybody, it's Gerald and Jason with Comics Cast. Let it out.
Thanks for having me again, man. I appreciate it.
This just comes from watching Lord of the Rings too much, basically. And
Thank you.
All right, welcome to the show, guys. It's Comics Cast. I'm Joe Tolliver. That's Gerald. What's up, man? Go ahead and intro the show and all this color commentary.
Yes, well, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. First thing, it's 2021, new beginnings. We wanted to get past 2020, and it's going to be a good year. I want to be positive about it. It's going to be very special,
Yep.
And we have a special treat for 2021. Some phenomenal guests, but all of our guests are phenomenal. But these guys are really phenomenal because they're kicking off 2021 with us. But you know what? I think that it's one of those things we got to talk about Comics Cast and let it out and what exactly it is. And Comics Cast, of course, is the brainchild of my partner in crime over here, Joe Tolliver. Our mission is to promote independent creators, anything and everything about independent creators. We want to put them in the forefront, get as many eyes on them, and that's what Comics Cast is about. Now, Let It Out is one of a few shows that we debuted last year, and it's one of the ones that we're taking into 2021. And Let It Out specifically focuses on our guests and who are artists, but now we've kind of expanded it to artist, writer, creative team combos. And that combo we have today is truly special. We're going to kick off that year, like I said, in 2021 with a really good treat. I think I said really too many times.
And I want to make sure that we add that, consider subscribing. If you're coming from Facebook and you've been following us this whole time, we've been hugely successful on Facebook. We're going to keep growing because the bigger the audience that we can get, the more impact we can have on these creators. So that's obviously our number one goal. And then really look at hitting us up on any Comics Cast. We'll show up our YouTube link here in a minute. But yeah, follow us there because we need to grow that audience as big, as wide as we can so we can make that impact because it's absolutely important. So what can we give to you from all this? We're going to be talking to creators. We're going to be talking to writers, producers, distributors, everything in the indie scene, and some things maybe, so a couple of maybe the big two guys that can kind of, tell us their experiences going in there. So it's absolutely imperative that we continue to grow so that those indie creators can be as successful as possible. That's absolutely important, but it's also value added for you guys. If you're starting off as a new artist, like this show right here, we're going to be drawing along. You guys can draw along with us. We'll shoot your photos of your images of your artwork up on the show. Ask questions. These creators are here to interact. Let everyone know what they're doing, but also it's a great way for you guys to learn the process of building comics. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like us. Share this video and help us build that audience so that we can help these guys out.
Yeah, well said. If you look at the bottom, there's actually a short URL that can go to our Comics Cast page on YouTube. Thing to note, on Facebook, we are just Indie Comics Cast. Comics Cast. But on YouTube, we are Indie Comics Cast. So just make sure that you note that. It will be in the comments field. And we definitely want to get your support, earn your support, because the more people that we can get to subscribe to us, that will get more eyes on those creators that we feature here. So Joe's pulled up our Indie Comics Cast YouTube page, and you can see there's I think the word of the year was plethora. There's a plethora of videos out there. So check it out. We've got I don't know. Did you count how many? I know
we're over about 35, 36 videos at least on YouTube, and then we've got almost 100 videos on Facebook. So we're building up our YouTube presence and sort of taking that by storm. So we're growing. The content's already out there, so you guys can go watch whatever you guys want to see. But let's not, hold up on that. I want to get as quick as we can. So let me get that down.
Right. So you go ahead and minimize that, and I don't know if you want to do the drum roll. We're going to do a little drum roll here. I'm going to welcome our guest here, and here we go. So, and with that, let us welcome. Oops.
Everything came up.
I hit the wrong button. Technical difficulties in 2021 already, but that's what makes it fun. So here we have Mr. Thom Burgess, all the way from England. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
That is correct. And we have Bri Neumann, who's our California girl. She's on the West Coast here. So I want to welcome you both. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for being on Comics Cast. Let It Out. Say hi to everybody.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, this has been in the works for a while because, as I think Thom reached out to us, or I don't know exactly how it happened, but we've been talking for a while, and just couldn't get you into 2020, but I have you in 2021 as our first guest. So you know what? You're number one, number one in 2021. So I want to welcome you both. Now they both are really super talented independent creators. They had a Kickstarter campaign that was successfully funded in the last part of 2021, and it was it's called Early Haunts, and it's a graphic novel about the supernatural, about ghosts. So, so I don't know if we're gonna get to see that. And what's really cool about this is that these are kind of like it's lore that from other countries. It's ghost stories that maybe you hadn't heard about, but it's kind of unique because it's not the typical ghost stories that you heard. And Bri's contribution to this is definitely cool because it's from an Eastern side. So we're going to get to see that Eastern ghost story, telling there. But I'm fascinated by your work, your book. But we're going to save that for a little bit later. I'm going to show that some pictures from that preview of the book. You're going to get the opportunity to preview it. And of course, Thom said that he's going to, I think, is there a specific link that they can go to, or just email you if they want to purchase that book? Is that correct, Thom? Is that how it's going to be?
Sure. I mean, by all means, if people want to reach out via any of the social media,
right.
I'm just taking orders separately now, but go through the Kickstarter.
Okay, well, they're going to be beating down the door for that. So let me show that. So here, if you look at the bottom, the little scrolling ticker on the bottom, man, it's always reversed here. You can see the first part of it those are Bri's contact information as well as Thom's contact information. You can go to info at managhosts.com, and also he's also Managhosts on all social media platforms, and you can see Bri's there. So that's going to be on the whole show. So if you want to check that out, just make note of that, and don't go there just yet. Keep your eyes on this camera and watch this show, but go there afterwards because you're going to want to get there. Save the
link. Just so everyone knows, I'm not being rude. I'm just sharing out the video so we get as many.
Okay. Yeah. So he's our social media extraordinaire. He's going to make sure we get some more eyes on that. So introductions aside now, so we're going to move to the part of the show where we call it the elevator speech, but you're going to have definitely more than one floor to do your little intro to talk about who you are, because it's definitely impressive. I've looked through your social medias and all the stuff that you had sent me, and it's definitely impressive. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Thom, and if you notice, he's also, I guess that's his official name is or his pen name, is that your professional name, T.W. Burgess, but he's known as Thom. And I think we joked around a little bit. What does the W stand for? And I said it must stand for winner, because Thom, the winner, Burgess. Thom, I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about what W stands for, or if I was correct, because I've been known to be clairvoyant. You can definitely tell us what the W stands for. But that is your professional name. So if you see things in lights, in terms of his celebrity status, it will be T.W. Burgess, not Thom Burgess. But anyway. So here we go. Let me go ahead and start. Just let us know about who you are, what you're about. And let our audience get a little bit of a flavor in terms of who Thom is.
Sure. Unfortunately, the W is not winner, which I will be changing it to. It's only William. Sure. I've been self-publishing graphic novels now for about 5-6 years, all primarily within ghost stories. Folklore, heavily based, in the supernatural. And from the last couple of years, I've been working on this project called Early Haunts, which is bringing together 4 seminal ghost stories, and it's including The Ring, so the stories which inspired The Ring, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, and Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. And the project really was to delve into those origins and to find out where those stories came from. And once I found those stories, which are these 4 ghost stories, which I just thought were too good not to share, I was really just intrigued to see how that would translate into a graphic novel format. So yeah, over the last couple of years, it's just been a case of putting it together in a comic style. And then amidst the pandemic, it was a good excuse to kind of wrap it up. So I'd worked with Bri previously on a project called Nyctophobias, and Bri being really kind enough to donate one of her pieces. Always been a big fan of her work. And yeah, obviously there's a lot of folklore, which seems to come through with her D&D pieces. Yeah, she did an absolutely amazing job with the story itself, which is the story that inspired Koji Suzuki's Ring.
Oh wow! I'm looking at these pictures that you had sent to me before. Now you are the writer, the author of all these this compilation, this anthology that we're going to talk a little later on. But these pieces that we're showing here, these are all works that are not a part of early haunts, but just some of the early writing and projects that you worked on, right?
Sure. So that's Malevolence, I think you're going through at the moment,
okay.
Which is my first graphic novel that I put out a few years ago. Nyctophobias is the one that I worked with Bri on previously.
Okay.
So Bri donated a piece for the story called All Smiles. These were 20 short ghost stories, all based around Tales of the Dark, and all the proceeds from the book sales went to the Australia Zoo, who were treating the animals who were injured in the Australia wildfires last year.
Yeah. So fascination with ghosts, and you have a big heart as well in terms of for animals and helping out our friends in Australia, especially the animals. I mean, I totally. It seems like the news cycle keeps on going. 2020 was just filled with all sorts of craziness, and that was definitely made a big impact on the world in terms of hearing the tragedies that were going. The forest fires there, and for you guys to raise or to do a project here to raise money for it, definitely phenomenal. So based on this, how many works have you done now? Is before you got to Haunts? Is there a count in terms of how many published pieces you've done?
Sure, all self-published. So 5 published pieces. This is my 6th.
Okay, 6th one. Okay.
Wow.
And I was definitely looking at this again and getting creeped out already. It's like it's a good thing we're not doing our broadcast too late at night, because I don't know if I'd be able to sleep. But what I love about this is that it's that whole genre of doing that horror aspect, or the folklore, the horror, the little bit of that creepiness that's in there. I think that's something that you don't get enough of, and I think you're filling a little bit of a niche here. And the fact that it's multicultural, you're examining stories that you mentioned Frankenstein, you mentioned the Sleepy Hollow, but Bri's contribution to early haunts was something that I've never heard of. But I think it's kind of neat. You're doing unique in the terms of doing a different spin on these classic like stories that we kind of all known about, but I think you're doing a different angle on it. So I don't know. I'm just gonna continue to go through this. I mean, if there's anything here that you'd like me to stop on and talk about, I mean, I just love how there's just not only there's a variety of stories, but you have so many different art styles. The artists that you met here, apparently with Bri being here in the United States and you being in England, the 6 prior works that you did, were they artists and writers that were all in Europe, or were they all over the world?
Across the world, to be honest. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the early ones, sure, like The Eerie, Hallows Fell, which is my 3rd book. I worked with Canadian artists for that. And Nyctophobias, right across the world. So a mix of European people based in the States, Canada. It's as you say, it's always a genre which I feel is kind of underserved within comics and graphic novels. I think there are, I've been heavily inspired by the early greats like From Hell by Alan Moore, Emily Carroll, Through the Woods. But I think as a whole, there is a big lack of horror comics to really serve a purpose in terms of delivering supernatural scares. So it's something which I've just long been interested in, and it's always just fun to try and translate that feeling of watching a horror film, especially within the means of like a supernatural horror, but putting it actually onto the page and trying to scare someone.
Oh yeah, and I think the visual style totally, creeps me out. And I don't know if you noticed, there was another gentleman that was here, was with one of my other co-hosts, Rick. He's actually from Denmark, so he's actually in the same time zone as you. Yeah, there it is. Too late at night. Speak for yourself, Gerald. Me and TW. Oh, so he calls you. He didn't call you winner. I don't know why. TW are on evening time currently, and so I'm gonna have a few hours before it gets too dark here. So I'm gonna have to I get in those moods too. It's like once a year I want to watch horror movies or pick up a horror novel. In this case, I'm gonna have to pick up early haunts and get creeped out. And it'll be a once in a once in a year thing that'll do. It's like Christmas. I just got to get freaked out once a year. So in terms of stuff like that.
I mean, when Jared was showing me some of this, because he did all the pre-work, he talked with you guys, he's been really tied in, and I'm over here in Missouri, doing New Year's and haven't been able to tie in too well. But I saw some of the work, and immediately I was blown away by how everything was structured together. How as a publisher, you were able to pull those those different creators, but like there was something really unique about each image and the structure of it, but it still felt tied together.
Yes,
with the use of that light and dark. It was very cool. Very they're all so drastically different from each other, but yet they feel tied together. So it was that's a testament to you, I'd say. It was just really quite cool as the overall package. So
yeah, this image totally freaked me out. It reminded me of Insidious. In fact, when I pulled it up, I was so focused on the two characters in the foreground, and then I saw this eye peering over his shoulder. And I was like, it was just like a little bit of a jump back, and I probably looked around and realized I'm only at the house by myself. But I was like, oh no, I wasn't scared. No, that was just totally. You really picked some really talented artists to go to work with. And that being said, let's talk about your current talented artist that's working with you on Ghostly Haunts, and that would be Bri. So Bri, welcome. I guess we're going to let you on the elevator right now. You're going to do your little bit of your elevator speech. So let me stop the screen here, and we're going to share some of your work here because it is phenomenal in its own right. And I just want to give people a preview of what we're going to be seeing. So Bri, welcome to the show. And the mic is now officially in your hands, and you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Bri. I'm an artist. I went to art school majoring in illustration for entertainment. So I was studying animation primarily. And then when I graduated, I interned in mobile games at first, and then moved to animation shortly thereafter, doing background painting. So I'm mostly a colorist, doing painting, some color design here and there. And that's kind of where I still am. That's my day job. But on the side, I like to do kind of personal stuff. So I'm trying to get more into publishing, private commissions. I've done some visual development for TV. I've done some background painting for video games. I have a book cover coming out this year that I can't talk about, but it is coming. And this was actually my first published comics project that I did with Thom. After our stint together with the Nyctophobias project, he hit me up and he was like, do you do comics? And I was like, not really, but
of course you do. That's what you say. You say, of course you do.
I had a personal comic project for like 2 years that wasn't going anywhere. And I showed it and he was like, oh, this looks good. And I was like, cool. I wasn't sure how it was. And then he was like, do you want to try this? And I was like, I definitely want to try it. Like, it's something I love comics. I always wanted to do them, but they're very intimidating. They're very daunting.
Yes.
I'm definitely more of a painter than a draftsman. So it was daunting at first for sure, but Thom's great to work with. I think he really brings out the best in his artists, and
winner.
So it's been a pleasure working with him, definitely.
Oh yeah. I saw your artwork, and I was just eating it up. It was just so awesome. And I'm looking at it, and my day job, I can't say that I really wish that I was a full-time, artist or independent creator like you two. I do graphic design, and it's like even really boring graphic design. It's like recruiting government design. But I try and put a nice creative spin on it. But I see this stuff, and I'm inspired by it, and I see graphic design in your work too. So it's like, to me, I think it'd be a natural. And I think that's what Thom saw in your work. Said, he probably saw it's like, that you could easily transition to doing sequentials. But what I like about your artwork here is that it's not, they're not pinups. They have a pinup quality to it, but there's like a story. It's like, you can almost see that I look at it and I want to know what it's about. This is one here, and I look at this, you have such, this is even black and white, and you talk about you do colors and backgrounds and things like that. But The textures, there's such a rich, I mean, I really want to know what is the story behind this character that's coming through the door? What is that shadow? And like, even the negative space here, like it's just open. It makes me think like there's what's in this. Is it a garden? Is it the future? I have no idea, but I just look at it in such rich storytelling that isn't even, and you talk about how this is your first published work. It's like, you should be publishing everything, just really cool. And I was joking around with you. This was like, when I look at your artwork style, it looks like a perfect fusion of Eastern and Western styles. And I think it has that kind of like that Japanese manga anime kind of look to it, as well as like some Western look. And then you top that off with these brilliant colors. They're so striking. Let's go back up here. Like these magentas, and you have these textures with these. I can't really. I guess I could zoom in here, but there's like it has like halftone screens, and you have like it's very layered. And I just can't tell you how much I was looking at this, and I think I spent too much time just zooming into all the little details. And when I heard, this is another thing that I learned about Bri, is that she works for Disney Television. It's like, Disney Television. I was like, great. And and I'm going to show you a little bit about some of that stuff. And she told me she did background art. And I go, why are they putting you in the background? It's like, it's like that Dirty Dancing thing. You don't put Baby in the corner. You don't put Bri in the background, even though she's a really good background artist, because we're going to show that. But just look at this. Phenomenal, great color theory, sensibility, great art. There's just graphic design elements that are in there. Just really, really flowing. I mean, and here we go. We went from those magentas and some of those dark colors that were had striking contrast, but here we have a really warm palette, with earthy colors. You can do the masculine, the feminine, the otherworldly. It's just really cool. It makes me appreciate just the impact that color makes. I'm definitely just a hobby illustrator who just does like pencils and things like that, but you can really see the level of professionalism that Bri brings to the game with her colors and her effective use of light.
Well, on top of that, Bri says she's not a draftsman. Like, the one thing that is the most frustrating thing about great artists is when they say they're not good at something.
I know.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I was like, whatever. She's like, I'm not a draftsman. Hold my beer. She definitely is really, really. She's just humble. So there's another good quality.
That's also a good thing.
Yeah. So let me show a little bit, because we're still on the elevator ride, talking about her a little bit about herself. Now, this is the work from what is it? It's from Disney Television. It's Big City Greens. Is that correct?
Yep.
And now you said you just did the backgrounds for these, correct? Is that?
Yes. So I'm a background painter. So I get the black and white layouts, line art. Amazing. We have an amazing background design team on the show. Okay. And then consult with my art director, any special notes that need to happen. And then they just let me run wild and free like a horse. And I the backgrounds. And I love my job, to be honest. Like, you mentioned like, why are you painting backgrounds? It's the stuff that's in the background. It's only on the screen for like 10 seconds at the most. But the thing I love about it is that like you get to set the mood of the scene. That is your job. You're in charge of the atmosphere and kind of like the story a little bit. Like everything in a background kind of has to enhance the character acting, has to enhance the storytelling, has to enhance what's happening in the scene or what's going to happen in the scene. And that's like something that I really vibe with. It's something I love to do. So, I've been doing background painting for animation for almost 5 years now.
Right.
And it's a joy. And it leaves me kind of like I have enough battery power when I get home to do other stuff.
Well,
that goes to all you freaking comic book artists out there too. Do your background. Don't do backgrounds.
Yeah, don't skip on the background, and that's actually a lesson to me. So that's another reason why I was really impressed here. And this is one of my favorite shots here, because that's actually what important to say is that I read the Pixar. I think it was the Pixar Color Theory book. I don't remember exactly what the title was, but that's how Pixar totally manipulates us, how they make us cry and how they make us laugh, and how when we're watching a scene, sure, their animation is phenomenal, but I want to say it's color emotion manipulation. They really set the tone, before you even hear a word of dialogue or see things, the animation or characters come onto the screen. it is the color that will immediately affect you, and you don't know. It's like subconscious. And I think that's Bri's like, oh, I get to like totally make my audience cry or leap with joy, just by like doing these colors. And I got this picture, and we were looking at some of her artwork, and this was one of my favorite ones. And I don't know if I'm just a little sick in the head here, but it just made me laugh like incredibly. But it's also the color and the background that was set up by this. But so this is just the background without the character. And Bri, you just knocked this out of the park. I just like this so much. And this would not look the same if it was like a cheery blue sky. And it adds a bit of a gravitas to it, and it makes you laugh a little bit too. And I was like, it just seems like it reminded me of like Calvin and Hobbes. Like when Calvin would do I don't know if you're a Calvin and Hobbes fan, but he would definitely do these crazy things where he'd do snowman sculptures, and then they'd turn into like Godzilla, and they would do all these crazy things. But I just love the atmosphere. I mean, look at this. I mean, you definitely get a mood, and then you go from this red look, and then you go to this, and I'm speechless. I mean, it does affect it. It's that establishing shot, and not only is it's setting up that composition, but the color, it just really sets the mood, gives you an idea of what the story is going to be about. Here we have something that's funner. It has definitely a more cheerier note to it. But ready to say Cheerios. But it's such story. I mean, I look at the background. There's no characters in here yet, but I want to know like what's in there. Of course, this is from Disney Big City Greens. So yeah. So Bri, did you want to talk about any of these pieces that I just showed? You want to talk a little, or is that enough? In terms of,
I want to know how you worked a gig where you're a background artist. Now, what was it that? How do you like? I draw buildings really well, and I can set the mood really well with some lighting. Here's my resume. Or was it that somebody was looking at your work and was like, we need background artists that can paint, that can show light and shadow and emote and set the mood of the stage. How did that kind of come to be?
So after my internship, I was not offered a job at the place where I interned because they weren't hiring at the time. So I was kind of like, what do I do? And I had a friend, his name is Max. I don't think he's watching, but if you're watching, hi Max. And he worked on Rick and Morty at the time. And
great show.
He was like, hey, we're starting season 3. We're looking for background painters and colorists. Do you want to test for it? And I said, yes, because I don't have a job. So I tested for it. They brought me in with tons of help from Max, obviously, and talked to the art director, Jeff Thompson, who's awesome. And he likes my personal work as well as my test. So he was like, do you want to do background painting? And I was like, yes. So I think for that job specifically, what they liked about my work was how I handled light and color specifically in my personal work. And the test was kind of just like a formality. And then did that whole season 3. I was a background painter on that, which was awesome. And then again, I was out of a job again. And my other friend, Dylan Foreman, who was on Rick and Morty with me, he worked on Big City at the time. And he was like, hey, someone just left and we're looking for a background. Nice. Extremely serendipitous. And the guy that I was replacing, Ricky Kameda, he's an incredible painter. So I was like, I saw his work and I was like, this is what I have to follow.
Yeah, it's leveling up. It's fire, but leveling up. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people aren't in California, so it's the challenge is real. It's not always, you don't always have those connections.
Yes.
But it was good that you had that friend that you sort of the concept of, even if you're on the internet doing this, like you have to be ready for the opportunity when it comes to you. So it was great that happened. So congratulations. Like that's amazing. And I hope it keeps leading to more jobs.
Thank you.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Well, yeah, I like to say that it was probably just destiny. It was the artist that left said, you know what, it's time for Bri to spread her wings and let her into the limelight, and we get to enjoy this. So now we're moving up the floors. I guess we have Andrew Marr here. This is so interesting listening in with my 13-year-old son. So you have a 13-year-old son who's, a fan here, really enjoying all the info. My son is looking at getting into this line of work later on. Practices every day. If interested, take a look. Cheers. And there's an Instagram link here.
All right. So what I'm going to say is to Andrew Marr, this is a draw along show. There's 3 art challenges. You can't see me because I'm underneath the text, but that's fine.
He's like, hear it.
So yeah. So I know our show art. Is it art show or show art? Oh my god.
It's the art show. It's the art show.
The art show. It's my own group, and I keep forgetting what it's. The art show. You can post it. Thanks. You can post it. You can post your images there as you draw along, and we will bring it up on the show. Yeah. So if your 13-year-old son wants to post it there, we'll bring it up, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit and see if any critiques, not in a negative, bad way, but if we have time, definitely that'll be an opportunity to highlight your work and anyone else who wants to highlight their work on the show.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we want to encourage, audience participation, because we're all fans here. And, you know, as we do the challenges, get your ghost on, because we're going to start talking a little bit about their joint project here. So I'm going to go back to sharing one more screen here. And let's go back to the, oops. And ta-da! This is their collaboration. Now, Early Haunts, you know, and I purposely didn't read the whole thing because I want to be just surprised about a lot of the things that you know, both Thom and Bri are going to talk a little bit about. It is an anthology project, and this is their joint venture, their joint compilation, and it's Bri is one of several talented people that have worked on this. Yeah, this is, I guess you said it. Is this your sixth one, or is this the seventh, Thom, piece that you've worked on now? Is this?
I guess this would be my seventh. Yeah,
seventh. Yeah. So lucky number seven. And this was successfully crowdfunded, and we're gonna show that page. Now you won't be able to, obviously the campaign is over, but we're gonna talk a little bit about it. You can still get it, and Thom is gonna share some information about it. But as we start looking at it, I just want you and Bri just to, like, you know, I'm gonna just go through you know, a few of the pages, and I want to show everything because I want people to definitely pick it up, so you can just see the diversity, the variety of art styles. You know, we have everything from sequentials to like almost like a page where there'd be like prose on one side, and you have like a illustration on the other, and then you have Bri's work, which is all sequential. You're going to see some excellent color work that Bri told me about as like looking at it, and I thought Bri had colored it, but there's actually a talented colorist that worked with her on this because she's so in demand. She could only commit to doing the pencils and the inks for it, but it looked just like Bri's style, and then with the color work. But yeah, so I'm gonna flip through this, and I'm just gonna hand the mic back over to the two of you, and you can kind of talk a little bit about Early Haunts, about what, you know, the genesis. I would love to hear the story in terms of if there's more to it in terms of like how you got connected with Bri, and actually I'd like to hear about. This is the most interesting thing that I heard from our pre-show yesterday, is that they have, I think that was the first time the two of you had actually seen each other. You didn't do any type of video conferencing. I was like, you guys just chatted, or did you just do old school email or carrier pigeon from, I don't know, from England all the way to the West Coast? I have no idea how you guys communicated. Was it smoke signals? But it just really was impressive in terms of like, you guys didn't do any type of video conferencing. So, and you did this wonderful story. So I'm going to flip through a few of the pages. Thom and Bri, just take it away. Tell us a little bit about Early Haunts.
Sure. Bri, do you want me to intro, I guess?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so I guess on the back of, I saw Bri's work on Twitter and was obviously blown away. It's very much the kind of stuff I'm into as well, you know, that kind of folklore, D&D kind of feel to it. And I was doing Early Haunts at the time, and I was looking for someone to do the story which inspired The Ring, which is this classic Japanese ghost story. And there's like 40 different versions of it. So it was something that I really wanted to put a unique spin on it. So Bri was really the kind of the perfect answer, really. And I was just really happy that she was around and available to take it on. So the story itself is called, I get the pronunciation of this right. It's like Baba Sarashiko, which is basically Dish Mansion. So it's the tale of Dish Mansion. And yeah, this story, which is kind of based around this ghost, which comes out of a well. So like a clear link with obviously The Ring, Koji Suzuki's novel. So yeah, it was just kind of, I reached out to Bri obviously via Twitter. I think from there we mainly spoke on Twitter or email, just kind of discussing like briefs. In terms of an outline, I mean, it was just remarkably easy working with Bri. She was so easygoing. Got the story straight away. Her interpretation was absolutely spot on. As you said before, there's obviously I was thinking with Bri's work, it's like a real clear Eastern influence to it, but there's also, I think, a little bit of like that classic Franco-Belgium kind of French comics feel to it, which is, you know, something I really love. And it was just giving, that kind of feel that you could feel that was obviously, it's like a Western interpretation of this Eastern story. So, from there, basically, I sent over Bri some details in terms of the kind of layouts that I envisioned for the landscapes and the location itself, for the characters, and like it's not just me kind of saying not just lying. It was an absolute joy working with Bri, because there was, I think, like a few minor adjustments to a few of the story pieces, but it was remarkably straightforward. And she did a fantastic job. So purely, I think it was purely mostly over Twitter that most
That's proof that social media matters, you know, in terms of like you were discovered by Thom via Twitter. You know, it's not like you were actively pursuing this project. You know, I think I guess that's just testament to your skill. I was just thinking that for me, it's like I'm gonna have to like beat down doors to like, hey, look at my pathetic artwork, you know. But you know, it's sort of like people gravitated. You know, they just found you, and it's the power of social media. So like, proof that connections can they can be unintentional. They just sort of like can like I said, destiny. You know, it allowed you to connect with Thom here, and you know, I'm. Your story, I guess I'm going to say that it's at the end of this anthology. So I'm just going to flip through this really quickly in terms of just showing to give our audience in terms of like what kind of visual styles that you're going to see if you were to take this on. Now, before we get to like Bri's contribution to this, so Thom, all these other artists, are they in Europe? Are they in America too? Did you find them through Twitter, or are they've your brother maybe, or your uncle's roommate? I don't know. Were they like, or did you find them like Bri? You know, like you just decided to go through Instagram, Twitter, and find artists and reach out to them.
It's a real mix, to be honest. So David Romero, whose work you're going through at the moment, that's the Death Bride, which inspired Mary Shelley to do Frankenstein.
Right.
David I knew because he did some fan art for The Eerie, one of my previous books, which he tagged me in on Instagram, I think, a few years ago, and loved his work. And so David did the cover art as well. And he's based in Texas, so he's US based.
Texas. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and we're working, myself and one of my collaborators working with him at the moment on another comic project. So he's been fantastic to work with. Mike O'Brien, who's the first artist, he's based in Ireland. And then there's Brian Coldrick. I should say I worked with Mike previously on another project. Brian, he's previously put out a project called Behind You, which is like this really cool series of animated GIFs.
Look behind you. I was like, okay, behind you, Gerald. Yeah. You said he was from Ireland? Is that what you said?
Mike is, Mike O'Brien.
Okay.
And Brian lives in the UK, but his work's been published in IDW, and I think like he's got a foreword from Joe Hill, so you know it was really great to have him involved. But yeah, so really like a real mix across the UK and America.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this, and I take it this is kind of like I'm going to use like the tales. Somebody mentioned in the comments field like Tales from the Crypt. So like this character that was on the cover, he's like the Crypt Keeper. He's the one who's like telling. He's kind of like the narrator who's telling introducing these 4 stories while he's being stalked. You know, in terms of like that vibe, right? And this guy, this character was created by who? It was the guy who drew the first story in this anthology. Is that correct? I don't know if
David Romero. Yeah, I mean, one of the main things for the stories is very kind of you, Joe, saying about the fact that they feel cohesive. That was one of the main things, of trying to tie them together. And you know, I'm a big fan of horror anthologies like Ghost Stories, the film, or you know, sick horror films. It's one kind of overarching narrative that you could tie everything together. And I wanted to put these kind of pages of prose, just with a bit of an intro per story, so you know, you get an idea of the mindset behind like Washington Irving here, for instance. You know, where that headless horseman came from. Which is like really fascinating. You know, it's this. To me, I always think, American Halloween, I always go to Sleepy Hollow. It seems like, you know, the epitome of, you know, what everything you think for like that traditional classic American Halloween. But he wrote it in Birmingham in England, which is really crazy. It's kind of like he was really homesick and obviously missed his homeland, and just wanted to do something which showed his love for it.
Yeah, definitely get the creepy vibe from this, and it. I'm just glad that when we get the show over, there'll be a few more hours or at least an hour of daylight, so I won't be cringing before I go to bed here. But yeah, and again, these are other stories here, and you can see the diversity in styles here and the color palettes. You know, we talked about what Bri was doing with her own personal work in terms of establishing that color, that mood to set the scene here. And I'm just going to go ahead and scroll, through this really quickly because I want to get to the Dish Mansion, which when I read it, I go, the Dish Mansion. Is that a ghost story? I go, is this somebody who's afraid of doing dishes? I was like, it's like every time I walk into the kitchen, oh, that pile of dishes, it's going to get me, I was like interested as like, sometimes it's always entertaining because me being a fan of Japanese manga and anime, some things just don't translate the same. And even if they do a direct translation, it's interesting to see how the words don't necessarily line up in terms of things, because, it has to do with culture and it's, but, even though I think when you go from country to country and it's so interesting to see what kind of scares the bejesus out of people. I think, what is it from the John Wick movies? He was known as the Joe, help me out. Something the Baba
Yaga.
Baba Yaga.
And I was like going, that doesn't sound very scary type things. But, if you type in Baba Yaga in like Google or whatever, you'll get all sorts of crazy things that come up there. But yeah, it's neat. And I think that Thom, you definitely put your finger on the pulse of things, because, one thing about that's universal, even though things don't translate directly, a universal thing that's in every culture, there is a kind of a spooky story, that's told, back when it was just even before written languages, the oral tradition, telling that story and, from passing it down from generation to generation. And, they were like lessons, they would either tell your kid, don't be naughty, or else the Baba Yaga is going to get you, or the Dish Mansion ghost is going to get you if you don't clean, eat all your food off your plate or something like that. I don't know. But it's just so funny that you can find some humor in it, but that's that universality. I think when you look at comics as a visual medium, and, when you put horror and add that to it, it's sort of like it allows you to go beyond the oral part of it, the oral tradition, and be able to put it down on pages. And that's what we see here in these early haunts. And I was joking around like, this is Early Haunts Volume 1. There's going to be like 5 volumes I heard that are going to be done in 2021, because you have so many stories that are ready to go. There's going to be a part 2 to some of these, I guess. I don't know, but it's definitely going to have there's just so much potential. There's so many great stories out there, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do with it. So we get to this part of the show, or this part of the novel. I'm just going to show little bits of it, but again, here we get to see Bri's artwork here, and I was talking about how the graphic design quality of stuff. I mean, and considering that Bri said she'd never done sequential stuff before, or she's not a draftsman. I'm going to basically tell you guys that when you see this, it's like she's a pro already. It's like, I don't know, where she got that idea that she couldn't do this, but she definitely hit it out of the park with it. So, I guess I don't know who wants to talk about this a little bit, but I just want to take a moment as we're looking through this. The two of you can talk.
I'll jump in and give the other side of the mirror on this project. It was a lot of fun. Likewise, working with Thom was super easy. Like, whenever I have a client that I haven't worked with before, I'm always like, how is this person gonna be? Like, are they going to be a client who's like really finicky and kind of micromanagey, and they want everything like the way they see it in their head exactly, or are they going to kind of trust me to do what I do best? And again, Thom had like, I think 2 or 3 extremely small notes, and when I finished those, I was like, that's it. Like, no other big changes. Like, he had the text written out. He had a basic outline of the pages, which was helpful for me because, again, I think I'm still kind of learning page composition a little bit. So that was helpful to kind of have some guidance on that.
Right.
And then from there, he let me loose, and it was super delightful. And then you mentioned the colors for this story, and I was a little busy at the time, so I couldn't do colors on my own. So Brian Valenza stepped in, and I've never met him, but I've seen his work. He's an amazing colorist. And when I saw the colors for my art, like when I finished the pages and I knew that someone else was going to color them, I was kind of like I'm kind of a control freak. So I was like,
you're like,
is this going to come out the way that I envision it in my head? You know, like, which is the thing I don't like when people do to me. So I was like, no, just let him do his thing. He's a professional. He's an amazing artist, knows what he's doing. And when I got the pages back and saw them, I was like, superb, better than I could have done, I think.
Did he see your like those artwork, the artwork that you had sent me and we'd shown earlier? Did he see those before he actually did your coloring for your work? Because I was like I didn't read the credits and I was a little misled. I said, because it felt like you colored it, you know, because it had the same texture, layering, lighting sensitivity. I mean, just so did he? And even the magentas and the reds, and, you know, not using, you know, really dark blacks. Well, in this piece, that's right there, there's blacks. But I'm just saying that he, you know, when you're contrasting it, we're going to show the apparition, you know. Did he see any of your early work? Did he take anything from like the art, the color that you'd established with your work to influence?
No, I think it's all him. Like, if you look at his work, it looks all like this. Like, he's just an amazing colorist in his own right. And I think that it's a testament, because Thom hired him. I think it's a testament to Thom's that he was able to find a colorist and a penciler and inker that like really worked well together. I think I think our art styles just mesh really nicely.
I'm going to say it again, winner. Gonna just tying people together, getting pencil. So it's penciling, inking, and coloring, and then the storytelling, of course, here. So tell me, Thom and Bri, you know, like when about the creative process here. So he gave you Post-it notes with just like little one-word lines in terms of the story, or did he give you like a script and then like maybe break down pages, or was it just so like he just basically gave like a paragraph and said, hey, make this fit in 8 pages and you can break it down any way that you want? Because, you know, I look at this particular page. Again, I'm just going to harp on the whole, I mean, just, you know, give praise in terms of just a unique visual solution here, because, you know, you have the sequential panels and then you have like this last panel at the bottom, which is completely open, and, you know, it matches the panel. So you get the sense of falling, you get the sense of, you know, there's more to this. I mean, was this something that you came up with when you read the script, or did Thom go, hey, you know, I want you to do panel 1, 2, 3, and the 5th panel, open it up and then do this? I mean, was that something that you came up with?
Thom sent me a PDF of all the pages. So it was like 20 something pages, I think. And it was like just a white background with like squares drawn on, and then like in text, like what the script was, and then like a short description of like what should be in this panel.
In the scene.
But also, he said I had creative freedom. So there were parts where I felt like, for the way that I wanted the page to flow, I would like add a panel, take away a panel, make a panel bigger, change it around a little bit. But for the most part, like I said, I was nervous, and I really wanted it to look good. And so I was like, these panels look good, the way that he laid them out, the script makes sense, the pacing's good. Like, I don't have much that I want to change. So that was, again, it was kind of like a safety net under me.
Yeah, I think that's a Thom. Going to give you some praise here too, in terms of like the way that she described, I guess, the direction here. I mean, you gave her a lot of creative freedom in terms of what was inside the panels. But when we're talking about storytelling, this is the synergy that I think makes for good storytelling, when you have a great relationship with a writer and an artist. And this is a perfect example of that. Is that, you know, he can give very loose descriptions of like maybe the number of panels, and be able to, you know, you talk about pacing. I'm gonna say this. I say this in a lot of when everybody looks at a good comic book or a good story that's a visual graphic novel. It's like when you see it, you just enjoy it. It feels right. The story flows, and that's because there's that great relationship or that great understanding between the writer and the artist. But when the pacing is bad, or when the art just doesn't work, and you feel like that whatever angle was chosen, or there's bad anatomy, it's like it becomes a glaring example. You definitely notice it. It's almost like when you look at stuff and it's almost like you just appreciate it subconsciously, because it makes an impact on you. But when you see something bad, it definitely grates on you, and in that unfortunately leaves a negative impact on it. But when I was looking through it, it definitely flows, and I think that's just what you described there. Again, you guys did not meet face to face. It's impressive that you got that Thom was able just to relay his ideas of the story, and then give Bri the creative freedom just to go crazy, crazy good. I'm going to say crazy good because we look at this and I love the storytelling. So here we go from these. We're talking about colors. We talk about backgrounds. Of course, the coloring is.
Well, let me cut in real quick, Gerald, because I want to ask Thom a question about as a self-publisher, and we're keeping a lot of praise on you, and we're seeing what you're able to do. Mm-hmm. Bri said that this was like her first sequential comic. This is like her first emotional sort of jump into this sort of thing, and you've worked now. You said this is your 5th comic. I think you said that you've published
7.
So
7th, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about, how you interact with some of these artists, indie artists that are either A, been doing the indie scene for a while, or B, they're learning it and they're new. How are you working with these guys? Because there's a lot of publishers out there, or a writer that has a great idea that wants to publish their own book, but they don't know how to A, talk to anybody, or B, influence these creators. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to hear your point of view on how you've been successful about that.
To be honest, I suppose as with anything, it's a case of luck. It's a case of finding these people online. But I've just been really lucky to work with some really talented artists. In terms of, I always think it's really important. It's pointless to be saying to an artist, "Oh, I want this, and I don't want any deviation from how I see it." If obviously Bri's phenomenally talented, and it would be crazy just to say, "Oh, well, you were stuck, working within these parameters." And really just kind of, I think that should be applicable across the board. So I've tried to kind of do that with every artist I've worked with. It's equally up to them. And in the case of that, for instance, the Dish Mansion story, Bri a couple of times said, "Oh, I think this is okay, but I think it would work better perhaps in this context." And it does, completely change the context of a panel that you're trying to convey. So I couldn't have been happier with what came back. And Bri was also phenomenally quick. I've got to say as well, I'm used to working with artists, and I fully appreciate these things are not quick things to turn around. And yet, it seemed in like no time at all I had pages back from her, which were kind of like, I think it was 99.9% there when they're all done.
That's amazing. Bri's like giving all of us artists a bad name. She's quick. She's really good. I'm not going, "Oh, I better step up my game." Yeah. And we got Joe DeSantos, who's also was a guest on Let It Out last year. And I want to show more, but I want you to buy the book.
Thom was nice enough, and Bri was nice enough to give us a lot of their content, but we're trying not to show.
Yes, I don't want to show the whole thing because I want people to buy it. And that's why I'm not zooming in too much, because
let's remind everybody where they can actually get it if they want to see more. They want to get it. Where are they going? I know we've got a scroller on the bottom.
Yes, Thom, you mentioned that they would just email you directly to get it, or is there a link that they can go to, or
I guess the best thing to recommend is probably just to reach out via the Kickstarter, and that the Kickstarter links direct to me.
Okay.
So I'd be more than happy to help anyone out.
All right. Well, we're going to share actually that page because a little later, because even though the campaign is over, there are some impressive statistics that go along with that, how that was successfully funded. But I just wanted to before we get into our first, we are rolling right along, and it's actually
we better get into our challenges, or we'll have an 8-hour show.
Yeah, exactly. But Joe DeSantos, I want to show more, but I'm not going to zoom in because I don't want to get everybody to know what the story about the Dish Mansion is, or of course the other stories that are in this anthology. You got to buy the book, because if you really want to know, you got to buy the book. But here, we went from those blues. Now we're getting back to these magentas, and then it's just so interesting to me that the colorist did not see Bri's artwork before, because it fits right in her. It's like in her wheelhouse in terms of the color palettes. And here, this is what grabbed me here. Totally, it's just visually striking. It totally grabbed me here. And it's just the simplicity of the panels, not overly complex, but the diagonals. If you were just to squint your eyes and just sort of look at this, it's like I mean, I'm looking at it, and you can almost feel like that you're going to be embraced by, like, is this coming to consume you, type things. But it's really visually interesting here. And I think this is a pretty good segue. I'm going to share the early hunts Kickstarter page at the end of the drawing challenges, so we can, we're going to go through that and how it was successfully funded. But this is probably going to be a nice transition because we're going to go into our first drawing challenge. And I wanted to introduce, this is the apparition. This is the ghost from the story that Bri was working on. And she's going to, without giving away anything, both Thom and Bri can tell us a little bit about this particular ghost, what her deal is, what exactly does the dish mansion mean, and her role in it. But I wanted, oops. Oh, okay. What happened?
Oh, sorry about that. It automatically shares it because.
Okay, all right.
Let me show you guys one thing real quick on this. This is the art show. I didn't mean to jump the gun on this, but this is the art show group. Go ahead and go there. You'll see the live show going on right now.
Uh-huh.
And then underneath, you'll see this wonderful little post. Put your images there because I know people were talking about that in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is where you're going to post the artwork.
And then we'll share on the live stream.
Right. So let me get that screen back up there because steal my thunder here. This is the So this is the first drawing challenge that we're going to do, and it's really nice because it's at the beginning. We've just been just under an hour here. So as we prime that up, I'm going to pull up our art screens here. So Bri is a digital artist, as well as, I guess you do traditional art obviously as well, but her medium of choice for today is going to be digital. She uses Clip Studio Paint. Is that correct? And so
good old Clip.
Yeah, with the
Clip Studio Paint.
Yeah, the beauty of using Clip Studio Paint or using any digital medium for our guests is that by default it's going to be a big screen. So you're going to see you're going to get a chance to see Bri. You're going to get to see Bri's work materialize off this white piece of paper. White screen. It's going to come up before your eyes here. So our first challenge, is, of course, is to draw that apparition. And I guess Bri and Thom, if you want to just, without giving away the whole story, you can talk a little bit about this particular ghost story, or maybe you want to talk a little bit about the Asian mythology that Asian lore that this is based in. Just talk about a little bit about that, and we'll draw along. And I encourage anybody that's in our audience to draw along with us, and we will share it at the end, and you can get a nice critique from Thom and Bri. So let's get going. What
do we say? About 20 minutes? 15 minutes?
Let's do 15 and give us a 5-minute warning. And so let us know where we're at. And we'll go from there. Okay. So take it away,
Perfect.
Joe. I'm going to rely on you and Thom to carry us through. And
Daryl's like, I'm done. I talked long enough. I'm going to go now.
Okay, there you go. It's all you guys.
I'm just fascinated by you because, like, my thing is that I write all the time, I draw all the time. I'm constantly doing 101 different things. So just any chance to talk to writers is always good for me. That's just selfishly, like, trying to get it out for me. But I know I can only imagine there's other people out there. And then these badass artists are just gonna do their thing. So like you said earlier, you were lucky that a lot of your artists are really good and talented. But I mean, you also are finding the artists. Like, how do you go about finding your artists? Like, it seemed like a lot of your movement is on Twitter potentially. Seems like some communication there.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead. Explain that sort of the process of finding your artists and then opening up communications with them, because that seems to be a challenge for people, just communicating properly and like what to ask for, and sort of bring up, people need to eat, like how are people going to get paid, all this sort of stuff. So what's your process when looking for artists?
You're right. I guess it is primarily social media based, and I use sources like DeviantArt or ArtStation as well. But it's really, for me, for the kind of work that I do, it's someone that can really interpret like a dark story, like, I'm really into folk horror, ghost stories. So if someone can kind of do something which, uses that medium, but, to kind of flips their head on illustration as a whole in terms of what's scary, and is able to translate that feeling of fear onto a page, I think is really important for me. So, someone like Bri, you can see straight away with her, especially with the D&D content that she was sharing, was so effective. So I think, from reaching out, it's like anything. It's a case of just discussing, timelines, availability, and costs. And Bri was very, very reasonable. And as I say, she was phenomenally quick. So this character in particular, so this is a Kiku, the ghost, which I think is Japanese for chrysanthemum. And that's the ghost which inspired like Sadako and Ring. This kind of this folklore of this ghost which comes out of a well. And as I say, there's like 40 plus different versions of this lore in Japan. And they range from all across Japan as well. You've got some like Himeji Castle, you've got some in Edo provinces. And really the big key important thing was to try and do something which wasn't a clear representation of like just your stereotypical, your grudge or your Ring kind of character. So moving away from Sadako, she's a Yuri, which is like a vengeful spirit. So it's just kind of doing something which was really playing with the tone black, and like with the page showing before the character falling into the well. Really just having black is almost a character in itself in this story, and the fact it's kind of swallowing up the characters whole, and really I suppose is the malevolent influence.
Well, let me talk to the chat just for a second. Hey, Rick, can you? You know what? I don't think that Rick has the ability to accept followers on Art Show. Let me see if I can do that. First off, Bri looks like she's using a pre-done brush on Clip Studio Paint, so she's cheating, I think, with the hair.
That should be another rule.
Two.
That's her brush.
That's the brush that she probably uses for the character for the comic, which would be sweet. So we're seeing the actual tool that's used. Secondly, which one of you guys are the dungeon master?
Oh yeah, I kind of like. Gave that away.
So my question is, was that held against Bri, or was that a plus as a writer and kind of a creator? Do you see that as like a plus?
I don't think Tom knew.
It's got to be a plus, surely.
Yeah, these days I don't know.
I did not try to change the story at all. I was not micromanaging. I kept it all inside.
Nice.
Yeah, that was. I told Joe about that. I said, you saw her artwork, but the best thing about it is she loves Dungeons and Dragons, but she's not just a player; she's the dungeon master. That's a whole nother level right there. So, yeah,
that goes into writing, and that goes into creative production on a different level than the art side, which usually leans towards the writers. You would think that they would be the dungeon master. So I found that kind of fascinating.
Well, yeah, Joe, I just want to tell you too is that we've only seen a glimpse of what Bri is all about. Because when I talked to her during our pre-show, there's a writer trapped inside that artist's body as well. Bri, I know I don't want to like take away from your drawing here, but she told me that she has like stories in her head that she's been putting together, and she actually. Is it a yearly competition where you have like a story that you wanted to submit that you were working on? I don't know, Bri, you want to talk a little bit about some of your creative writing endeavors? I think maybe she's in the midst of like coming up with her own fantasy story. Maybe another.
Sorry about that. I'm in Missouri on the road.
Yeah, apparently Joe lives right beside a major highway interstate, and that was the Krispy Kreme truck that just went by. But anyway. So Bri, you want to tell us a little bit about that, about your writing?
So I consider writing to be like my second passion in life after art. But growing up, I focused more on art than writing, so it kind of just went into like hobby territory. But now that I'm kind of working more in sequential art, like working with Thom, kind of realizing like how the writing process works, how it can kind of work into my art a little bit more. I'm getting a little bit more confident. So every year I do NaNoWriMo, which is the National Novel Writing Month. which is kind of like a self-policing challenge. Like you don't really get any prize for it except for the fact that you finished a novel.
Uh-huh.
The goal is to write a 50,000 word novel in a month. So I have all these mostly bad novels just lying around. And one day I would like to edit at least one and see what happens. So we will see. But yeah, I love writing. That's partially why I'm a dungeon master, because it's like D&D is like, if you're doing homebrews or you're doing like your personal stuff, it's like forcing your friends to listen to your story.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I never thought of it that way. But...
And if any of my party is listening right now, I love you guys.
Well, yeah, I was joking with her too. I said, you know, because I told her that I'm more sci-fi than fantasy nerd, I guess, and I was bigger into Star Frontiers versus Dungeons and Dragons. But you know, there's always that if you have a dungeon master that's really good, or whoever's running the game, you definitely want them to do that all the time. But you get that bad mission where it's just like, or that bad quest, because you're talking about Dungeons and Dragons. It's like, no, we don't want you to be DM anymore. It was a terrible mission. Everybody died, and it was horrible. You know, type stuff. But I think that is, I never thought of it that way. That is a good test bed to see in terms of like stories. You know, you can see, you don't want to write yourself into a corner like George R.R. Martin. I don't want to say about what he did. It's like, yeah, I don't know if he's ever going to finish Game of Thrones. But anyway, that's another subject. But it's a good, I think that's a good way of testing things. I think if you basically rather than having to come up with these, you know, like you said, you probably you talked about, you know, notebooks full of what you call bad stories. They're probably all like Eisner winners or something like that. But you know, you pretty much are being very critical, like we all are, of our own art. But I think that's a novel idea. Look at those puns. I think that's a really good way of testing stories, and you know, and I just never even thought of it that way. So, Thom, did you even know that she was that Bri was really into Dungeons and Dragons? Did you know that prior to it, or did you read that on Twitter, or did you just notice that she does a lot of fantasy artwork? Did you catch up on any of that stuff?
To be honest, I didn't know the extent of it. No, I would be taken with.
Okay, so I'm going to joke around. I'm going to say, Thom, this is Bri. Bri, this is Thom. It's like you probably know each other intimately when it comes to like the story of the Dish Mansion, but on this show, everybody's learning about each other for the first time in terms of like their hobbies and their influences and passions, and that's great because I think that's only going to make a tighter story when you guys collaborate again. So go ahead and tell us, now that you know that she's into that whole side of it. I mean, what do you think about that?
Sure. No, I was going to say, you know, the stuff which really caught my attention when I first started working with Bri was as she was saying, that the stories that she's been kind of putting into sequentials. Bri, what was the story you put up on Twitter recently where it had like the knight character who was kind of taking souls and seeing them? That was amazing.
Yeah, I've been trying to do more zines, like short comics that I just digitally publish for like free because I want attention. And I have like this kind of self-contained universe that I'm trying to develop, and it's like a horror, fantasy, medieval type thing. But yeah, it's about these people called soul couriers who are like mages that are chosen by the king to escort souls to their proper destination because the ground is cursed and it makes souls like trapped on the earth. And yeah, I'm glad that Thom saw that and he liked it because his opinion means a lot to me.
So it's so cool, and I highly recommend everyone checking out the stream to go and find it on Twitter because it's absolutely stunning.
Okay, so I'm looking at the time here. We are at 10 minutes past the hour, so we still have 4 minutes to 15. So we'll see where we're at 15 past the hour, and we'll. I'm sure Bri will be like way before, ahead of me. But I'm gonna try not to look at her camera because I'm just gonna stop and want to fanboy looking at her artwork. But yeah, so that is totally interesting in terms of like how now you've seen like what her interests are in terms of being dungeon master, and do you think that maybe the next story that she does or I don't know, is there going to be like, I take it you were happy with her work, so is there going to be a volume 2 for early haunts? It'll be like, I guess, later haunts, or earlier months or even later. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting. We were joking around in terms of what we could call volume 2. We won't get into like some of those funny things that I came up with. But so do you see like going forward? Do you have another set of stories that you want to do, and maybe another story that you have in mind for Bri?
Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly we were already talking about maybe doing something together in the future for this year. But yeah, Early Haunts, I'd love to do some more stories. There's one of the stretch goals, which was met on the Kickstarter, meant that there's an additional Early Haunt, which is going to go out to all backers probably by about March this year, which is the origin story to the Turn and Screw. So I guess people might know that from Netflix's Haunting of Bly Manor. So the story is like that, which is way scarier than that. But yeah, we're planning on hopefully doing some more this year. So yeah, definitely. But you can see straight away, obviously, Bri's got a fantastic understanding of just how to draw something which is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I didn't realize like how just I looked over and it's the whole screen.
Yeah. So don't feel self-conscious at all, but yeah, it's a really big screen in terms of everybody seeing your artwork. I guess if you were, I was joking around with her too. I said, "Hey, have you ever done live drawing before?" And not that I'm a veteran of it or anything like that. She's like, "No." It's like, but I think that seems like anything that Bri just sort of like says that she hasn't done, and then she just tries it, it ends up being a smashing success here. So yeah. So I've you mentioned Thom about how there's all these different versions of this particular. I think you said there was like 14 different versions of this particular ghost story. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
No, 40.
Oh, 40
Yeah,
different versions. Okay, so while you were doing this and when you were researching this, what made you settle on the version that you had Bri realize? Was there something about this particular one? I mean, I'm familiar with The Ring. Of course, The Ring doesn't say anything about dishes, so I don't know if you want to like tell me a little bit about what made you settle on the version that because obviously the picture, the one that Bri did, is a period piece. It's done in like I guess it's like feudal Japan, I guess. So
yeah.
Did you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Primarily because the other variations of the story, to a great part, don't really have a really good rap to them. They're quite violent. This one, which kind of literally just ends with the ghost rising from the well. So in terms of narrative, they were kind of weak in that sense. Yeah, and this one had a nice rap to it. It was kind of probably slightly fictionalized by the fact that at the time, the guy who wrote it, Baba Bunko, would have been trying to endorse people to join the Buddhist movement. So it ends with, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but it ends with a nice rap which endorses that movement. But yeah, it's all of these things are kind of based on all the other 40 versions, all are based on this ancient folklore. So no one knows for sure where or when the story kind of stemmed from. But like with all these stories, just in doing the research, it's just been fascinating to find how many similarities, across continents that a lot of these tales have, amidst the folklore. From Japan, there's similarities with Middle European stuff, right across to, Spanish, Italian, something we all share. And it's just really fascinating that once you go into the roots of them, they just kind of interweave with each other.
Yeah. So like you mentioned that history part of it. So do you find yourself like, I had this vision of you being like Gandalf in some ancient library and like it's all lit with like waxes that are burnt. I mean, wax candles that are burnt down to like, stubs here. And you're like going through ancient scrolls and stuff like that. So like when you talk about research, do you I guess you really can't travel. But I mean, do you ever, how immersive do you go? Do you just use the internet? What is your method in terms of like researching these ancient horror stories?
Well, to be honest, I'm in Canterbury, so I'm about like 50 minutes outside of London.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got the cathedral probably about 20 meters behind me. So, when you could go out the house and go into cathedrals, I use their archive quite a lot. So I was going through quite a lot of old books. And yeah, I've used the British Library, which have got like early versions of the Turn and Screw by Henry James. So you're getting like a first-hand experience of where these stories come from. But yeah, it's been limiting, but if anything, to be honest, it's been good working on this year, just as it's been a welcome distraction just from obviously the chaos outside. And it seems to be something, just looking on social media, a lot of people engaging with like the Folklore Thursday hashtag movement, where every Thursday people share different folklore from around the world. And I think if anything, it's kind of become a bit more prevalent, and people are engaging a lot more with certainly ghost stories over Christmas. You've seen like over here in the UK, it's been so many people getting into that, which is something which we've done for years, but it's great to see other countries picking up on it.
So you think with the pandemic, it's kind of like, I found that with Comics Cast, we found that there's this huge independent movement in terms of independent creators now being able to, lockdown and being stuck in your house. You find more opportunity or things that you never thought you would have time to do. All of a sudden, you can do that. So are you seeing like a resurgence in like that trend of horror stories and like the folklore? Did it like, I know it sounds like you were a member of these groups. Did it seem like now that's more pronounced? Like you see a lot more of that storytelling getting out there?
Yeah, sure. I think that's a really good way of putting it. Storytelling as a whole just seems to have really blown up. Whilst people are locked down, that they want to go on YouTube, they want to go on different websites like Reddit and seek out these cool kind of spooky distractions pieces. So it's something which I just see is coming, it's come into its own this year, certainly. But yeah, absolutely. It's I think it's really important, and it's especially like when the night's drawing in, and it's there's winter nights, everything's cold and horrible. People want to sit around and distract themselves with cool stories.
Yeah, I think we've all kind of like found these interests that were kind of like put to the back because we were so consumed with like the ho-hum stuff of everyday stuff. And I think with all the superhero movies that are out there, and you don't hear too many of these type of stories. So I think you put these together at the right time, because it was like a niche that that needed to be filled. And that's what I wanted to talk about when we're going to allude to this when we show your Kickstarter campaign. You were not only successfully funded, but you had close to 800 backers. I mean, that is incredible. I've seen, Joe and I have looked at a lot of Kickstarters and just crowdfunding campaigns, whether they're Indiegogo or Kickstarter and things like that. That I had the joke about it. It's like you see some of these campaigns, and they're all they've been successfully funded, and maybe they have like these really lofty goals of maybe they're 10,000 or 20,000, and they've reached it. But then you look at the number of backers, and it's like maybe 20, 30, something like that. And I was joking around. I said maybe those creators have those 20 people were their best friends and their family members. but when you have nearly 800 backers, I said either Bri and you have like just a crazy friend list, or maybe you just have really big families and they were all supporting you. But I mean, how did that make you?
All right, time.
Time. Oh,
well past time.
I got so. Oh,
Very going on, so I had to make it big and say stop.
You did. Okay. All right. Well, all right. See, I got into like talking, and I get to look at. Oh,
awesome.
Oh, I'm gonna see this in my dreams. Thank you so much I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm gonna stare into the darkness of my room, and I'm just gonna see these piercing red eyes with just coming at me. So my insomnia begins in 2021.
Yeah, there you go.
Check it out. This is
the eyes. I noticed the eyes right away. Before you put the red on there, the texture around the eyes and how you expand them is very. It's interesting, because how like something can be so recognizable instantaneously, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. But that's the same thing you did in the book, and it was just it's spooky as hell, and it works for what is needed for sure. That was awesome. Yeah, good stuff.
Well, what Bri is completely. I mean, I get her years of dungeon mastering and DMing and stuff like that, and just her artwork here is that one of the things, and I think Thom can actually attest to this too, is like the most successful horror stories don't revolve around like super effects. They actually are very they flash, like something will happen really fast, or maybe something that's just in the background that's just barely discernible. You just get a hint of it, and Bri captured that completely. She doesn't have to put all these details in. It's like, it's so creepy already just looking at it. It's like your mind will fill in all the creepy blank spots that will keep you up at night. But it's like she's successful in just creating that atmosphere. But yeah, those piercing eyes are, I'm gonna have to cover my eyes here.
All right, so a little update, Gerald. So we can't. I don't know what the deal is. I can't approve new.
Okay, I will check it out.
People. So let's try to get those approved.
Okay, so
we got about 4 people that want to get approved to go into the group. So that's great. Awesome. Thank you for wanting to contribute, and you've been drawing along. That's great. Technical issues on my side. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'm just having a boomer moment or whatever. Let's pull up Daryl's real quick, and then give everyone a chance to see it.
I don't want to show mine. There's no color. But okay, go. I'm gonna check out there. Okay, so. Cool. Obviously, mine has more of a Western influence, I guess. But I don't have the same visual impact that Bri did. But I don't really do too many horror characters, and so it was really nice to dive into that and see what it's about. So apparently. Thom and Bri, you're inspiring other people to kind of draw too. I think that's the most. 5 people want to share their artwork. So
that's great. Now, supposedly Rick is saying that I've approved him and I've approved others. So if you guys are approved, give us a thumbs up in the comments and then post it. I'm not seeing anything in the art show. Okay. Just 1 second, real quick. I know we're running the show and things got to keep moving. So
okay. So we're gonna actually.
Quick. Yeah, I'm only seeing 1 comment. You guys got to comment your post there. So going to the next challenge, are we ready to move on to the next thing?
Yes, I just want to say that while we work through that approval process, we're just going to show all the artwork at the end. So please continue to draw with us and just let us know in the comments field that you are that you definitely are drawing along with us. So that way we can go back to the art show at the end of the show, pull all the artwork, and then share it. But yeah, we're going to go to challenge number 2. So we're at 223 right here, and challenge number 2 is what we would call in the past we had a co-host. His name was Rick, and it was called the Rick Challenge.
Rick just jumped on. Does Rick want to jump on just to do a challenge?
I don't know.
He lost his mind.
You know what? I'm almost tempted to say, Rick, you don't get to have fun with us.
I know. But you know what? You know what?
Okay, we'll get Rick in here. And you know what?
I can't believe we're going to do this. That's fine. Here we go.
And you put Rick at the top. Oh, you blew up the screen. Hey. Okay. So we get to see now, Thom, I want to let you know that Rick is from Denmark. So he's a fellow European here. And he has been the guy that's been my co-host on the show more than a couple times. And he's come up with some pretty creative challenges. The Freakazoid one, which totally demoralized me. That was because of this guy.
That wasn't even a challenge. Everybody knew who Freakazoid
was.
Except
I guess I'm a nobody. I didn't know who Freakazoid was. But anyway, Rick.
All right, Rick, what do we got?
Yeah.
Happy New Year. What do we got?
So you guys doing drawing spooky stuff. So I was thinking, let's make it challenging where you draw with a black background and black pen, and you're only on another layer, and you only are first allowed to show. Oh, Gerald can't do that.
No, I can't.
Yeah, no one can do that.
I was going to tell you, what are you talking about? I can't do that. That's all on Bri. But so think a little bit. Think of a new challenge.
No, I got a new one there. I got another one.
We've already got a challenge set up. What are we doing here, Rick?
I don't know. I heard
Rick came on the show thinking he's going to steal Joe's thunder here, and
I've worked so hard. I've spent days contemplating this challenge.
All right, fine.
Okay. Fine. Well, how about we do this?
Joe, goodbye. Not going to work, Rick.
I was just jumping in to try and help you with administrating chat and everything.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
Okay, you got to meet Joe. I mean, you got to meet Rick. Whoa, that was a little bit fun. Somebody got removed there for a sec, but we love Rick. I don't want to say anything. Rick has always been good.
Thanks, Rick.
Sorry about that, Bri and you got to see a little.
Maybe you'll have a great challenge.
That was comedic.
All right, so here it is. Here's the challenge.
Here's the challenge. Okay.
What we're gonna do, because if you don't know already, the third challenge is gonna be Batman.
Oh,
it's gonna be fun.
Why did you spill the beans about that?
We already said something at the beginning of the show.
Did I say Batman?
You said it already. So we're going to be drawing Batman at the end of the show. So I wanted to combine the spooky element, the different styles that both Gerald and Bri have.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping it sort of mashing those two elements together. Neil Adams, known for doing the Batman character, but also his key character that he created was Deadman. And that could be something that could be pretty cool to lay out. So if you don't know what Deadman looks like, I will go ahead and share that. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, I guess he looks like a man who's dead. I'm gonna go out on a limb and
yeah, I've not heard of this character. Oh my god.
Oh, all right. So you want us to fuse like Deadman and Batman together? I mean,
no. Deadman is a ghost. He doesn't exist in our plane,
right.
And he no one can see him except certain characters that have superpowers or whatever. But he can take over hosts and then communicate through those hosts.
Yes, he can possess his hosts, right? Basically, he can control he can inhabit their bodies, right?
And he can be drawn in so many different ways. Like it can be just black and white. You can put color in it. He can go through walls, forms. This gives you an opportunity to play with backgrounds or cutting up the negative, positive, negative space. So I just thought that could be kind of a fun challenge. And he's a ghost. It works.
And look,
it was a fair challenge. I hope Rick was okay with my challenge.
Yeah, I'm ready. That sounds
okay,
fun.
you ready for it? Okay, well, before we go ahead and Bri, you can get started. I'm going to get started too. But so we got Rick, who's already but we got the peanut gallery who's coming in here, and they're like, "Oops, Gerald doesn't know Deadman now. Okay, your nerd card is once again revoked." Man, I just can't. I got no love from our audience here. It's like I already got my nerd card taken away for Freakazoid, so I never got it back. So I don't know what else you can take away from me. So anyway, so we're gonna start drawing Deadman, and it is 2:29. So let's give it 15 minutes, and we'll see where we go from there. All right.
All right. So was that left field? It did seem like Bri wasn't familiar. Thom, are you familiar with Deadman?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm kind of excited about.
You should be the one drawing this.
Interested to see your terrifying take on it, Bri.
Yeah, just finding your style in it. I can always bring him back up at some point, or give me another angle on him. Do a little research.
I'm gonna go from memory. See how this goes.
It's the scariest version of Deadman anyone's ever seen.
All right, they're just laying out their pencils now. All right, so Bri, what do you do when you're just starting off at a blank page with Clip Studio versus what you would do on like a piece of paper? Like, do you find yourself doing something differently?
No, I don't think so. Like if I'm going to be drawing, and I kind of just jump right into drawing. If it's a painting, then I always put like a flat color down first as kind of like a mid-tone, and then work from there. Same as like if I'm doing like an oil painting or something.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm doing drawing like this, I'll just start like kind of putting in the basic anatomy, kind of basic shapes, and then refining it a lot later.
So what are you thinking? Like, do you see a finished piece already at this point in your head, or are you just sort of flowing it out?
I do. I have a goal. That goal might change. It probably will. But I like just going with the flow a little bit. And I think, when I'm working on a piece, it kind of has a mind of its own and a life of its own. And I kind of try to let that happen. And I don't try to self-correct too much, if that makes sense. Generally, the work comes out better if I let it do its own thing.
Yeah, I mean, why self-correct when you are correct already, Bri.
Thank you.
No reason to self-correct. Yeah. Yeah, but I was interesting what you were talking about, laying down that base color, because you're thinking from a colorist. You being a background painter and a creator of characters as well. It's sort of like, so you already kind of know like the mood that you want to set also, like when you start out, right? So I would have to say that the way that you describe it's like the color influences, like you already know what the story is going to be, right? When you're drawing it. So it's like putting that base color down. It's kind of what is that? We had Rick there. I think wasn't it a Danish or in Denmark they did what European. My art history professor is probably gonna come on the show and tell me you don't remember your art history, but it's like it's when you lay down a black instead. You don't start with a white. You start with a dark foundation, and then you bring everything out of the shadows. So do you think that way when you do some of your illustrations? Do you start with that base color, that emotion that you want to drive the illustration? Do you ever approach it from that way?
I think like when I'm doing an illustration, like something that involves more drawing than pure painting, I think I try to focus on shapes first.
Shapes, okay.
Like composition, and then like I don't know, like I'm not really good with value, it's not like the first thing I consider. So I generally think in like compositional shapes, and then I think value kind of comes out of that.
Oh, she just mentioned that she's not really good with value.
I knew you were going to say this.
I have to say that I thought I was probably one of the worst people that says I can't do it. But the truth of the matter is, when I say that I can't do it, I really mean it. I can't do it. When Bri says it, it's like, whatever. I'm going to have to say that whole my beer thing again. She's like, yeah, whatever. So, she definitely, we get to see really just a really phenomenal talent here at work. I'm going to have to go back and watch the show afterwards to see how she builds her compositions. But yeah, you're right about that. Is that I think that's one of the things that when I think as artists, to all the artists that are watching that are up and coming, is that we often think about I talked about pinups, and I think that when you're first starting to draw, it's like you just want to get like some character down, but you don't really think of the story that it's trying to tell, or you don't think of you were talking about elements and the shapes. And I think that's what makes for a really good story. That's the graphic design part of it, is that when you are building your composition, Bri said that she already knows kind of what's in her mind, what it's going to be. So she knows what's going to be in the what's going to be in the upper right or upper left to build that composition so that it leads your eye around it. And those are things that you think would be very obvious to artists, but I think we get so fixated on just doing a shape. I mean, doing the character itself, but not really thinking about the overall composition. And Bri, being a background painter, she's like aware of all that. She knows the background of it, and she's able to tell the story with both the character as well as the background and the color. And that's what makes for a stronger composition.
Right. I mean, I think it also goes into like a lot of new artists and me and every other artist that's just keep building, and that we're building on ourselves. We get so caught up with draftsmanship. Mm-hmm. How can we draw like this artist that is a draftsman that looks like this? Or how do we reach a point that we're just like this idol that we have? But what is good storytelling is understanding composition, understanding color value, understanding the light, understanding the relationship with characters in space amongst each other, and the background and everything else. With draftsmanship, as long as it isn't distracting and you understand those other things, find your style and keep building and keep getting better. But it does seem like we hinder ourselves focusing on how do we make the perfect David Finch line or the Jim Lee line, or
right. And I think that's something that you either do. I think as up and coming artists, I mean, this is something I wrestle with all the time, is that you're so consumed with trying to emulate an artist that you idolize, Bri, and you try and like do their style, and then you're so handicapped by it because you're trying to emulate them, try and copy them, and then you beat yourself up when it doesn't look like that. And I think that we should probably be looking at the overall, like what they're trying to do well. Look at their composition, their techniques, and then figure out what makes their work strong or what you're drawn to, and then kind of figure out how that can be incorporated into your style. I think is that something that you can probably look at that, Thom, in terms of writing when you read other people's pieces. You don't want to like totally rip them off and plagiarize them, but you kind of see like, oh, that was a really cool twist. That was a neat perspective, that they were storytelling element that they were working on. You don't want to like totally say, hey, I'm going to do the M. Night Shyamalan twist again, over and over. I mean, do you find the same way? I mean, you don't want to write yourself into a corner or paint yourself into a corner if it's an art standpoint. How do you deal with your being able to look at your idols and be able to, or read your idol's work and then be able to like say, hey, I can take that but make it my, do my own spin on it.
Yeah, sure. I suppose it's the emotional resonance for me of what you read. So certainly in horror, if it's something really scary, as you were saying before, and I'm a firm believer of it, it isn't necessarily all the tropey stuff of the obvious scary face, the monster. Sometimes it is, as Bri beautifully does, is capturing the essence of something really horrific, but within the mundane, the normal life. So really scary eyes, working with characters in odd positioning, and yeah, for me in terms of writing, it's trying to put those beats of a good ghost story or a horror story within a comic. So you get your page turns, you build up the scare, so you're getting glimpses of the horror, and then you turn the page and you got the big reveal, which Bri managed to do fantastically with Terror Dish Mansion. But yeah, it's just something which I don't know, you don't see it executed well enough. I think a lot of comics in terms of the horror genre are perhaps they take the obvious route, and yeah, it's I always try and think it's more interesting to do something a bit different, and yeah, try and scare someone in a unique way without it being too kind of stereotypical.
Yeah, you want to avoid the cliche, but you want to know that it's like, oh, that was such a brilliant way that particular writer approached something, and I think that's the challenge. It's a creative challenge no matter what. Whether you're writing or whether you're drawing or coloring, and I think that the horror angle is definitely fun. Because I think that's where you're like, how can I make it? I guess Thom is like, I think it's like you already know what the scare is supposed to be, and it's like, would you be wrestling with it like over and over? It's like, no, I know what it is. So how do I get around it? Like, do you like test? Do you have like a girlfriend or a best friend that you can test these stories and like go, and after you tell them the whole story, it's like, was that a good twist? I mean, did I scare you? I mean, how do you have a big focus group, or I know that you're kind of like going on old, like some of the things are like the Ichabod Crane story with Sleepy Hollow. Those are established lore. But if you were writing your own story or your own horror story, like what are the exercises that you do to give your story that edge?
I think one of the joys of social media is now we can try stuff out. So you've got a great arena there for just putting stuff out into the world and just seeing what bounces back. So one of my hobbies on social media is putting out like animated GIFs of like just one tweet ghost stories. And that's a great way of just seeing, if you get an instant response. So, I did a book called Photogas, which is an augmented reality book. You get an app and you can scan each picture, and they're like haunted photos. They come to life, and it was really fun just experimenting just with different characters in different places, and just really trying to find out what gets under people's skin. And yeah, that was a great way of just going, okay, that this is effective, perhaps this isn't. But yeah, if not, yeah, it is a case of bouncing stuff off friends and trying to capture something in a unique way. I'm a big firm believer of the Jaws approach, where you build something slowly in kind of glimpses and then have the big reveal at the end. I think it's the best way of kind of building up your scare and not giving away everything too quickly.
Yeah, I want to share that. Joe, remind me to share some of those animated. Thom sent me some animated GIFs, and I was like wondering why these GIF files were like megabytes. I was like, and then this is me being a total like wimp here. I was looking at it and I was like, why is this file so big? And so I'm like clicking on it, and it's like taking a while for it to load because it's going through like my web browser. And I'm like, what? It's so grainy. And then all of a sudden it moved. And I was like, oh my God.
Nice.
I got totally freaked out. So like, Thom, I just told you now that those little animated GIFs that you did, I had no idea that you built those from scratch. But yeah, he has like this one called the Christmas Tree Man. And I can just tell you that, it's just imagine it's Christmas morning, you're a little kid. It's actually not morning yet. You're waiting for Santa Claus, and you for the first time you wake up before dawn because it's like you've been fighting to like stay awake because you want to catch Santa Claus. You want to be able to get that. And I saw this name, it says Christmas Tree Man, right? And I like came up with my own story. And so what it is like it's before dawn, but it's after midnight, and you're trying to sneak into the family room where the chimney is to see if by the Christmas tree to see if Santa Claus is there. Instead, where the Christmas tree used to be, there's a grainy silhouette, and it looks like a tree, but it's not. It's more man-shaped, and it's kind of like, slightly moving here and forth. And I was like, oh, so creepy. I was like, just totally, yeah. If I was a little kid and saw that, I'd be like, okay, I think I'm gonna stay asleep until dawn. Let Santa Claus do his thing, because the Christmas Tree Man is gonna get you if you don't let Santa Claus do what he's supposed to do, in terms of delivering those gifts. So, yeah, that was and then you had like one where I think it was like some sort of a specter that's like over a head, like a lamplight too.
Yeah, the long-legged lamplighter.
Yeah. So you have stories for all these animated GIFs too that you sent me that are, so these are just it's a little image, but you've built a whole story around it. Is that what those are?
Yeah, sure. They came out a few years ago, and I just did them for fun, really, on Twitter. But they got quite a good response, and they were getting like a few thousand shares. So I thought I'll do a book. Hence the book coming from it. And I'm doing a series of haunted video games at the moment.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
8-bit characters, and they're pixelated, and man, you got all the horror genres like in every medium, everything from little video games to animated GIFs to like books and PDFs. It's like, I think, like I said, winner, definitely hitting all the bases in terms of like being able to take over the world in terms of like showing this horror genre. Yeah. So Joe, remind me to show some of those animated GIFs.
I will. I can only imagine freaking Thom sitting over there. I don't know if you guys ever saw those GIFs. I imagine everyone here has. Those videos where you'd watch that like car or like it was a moped or something driving along this windy street, and then out of nowhere the freaking creepy thing would scare you. I can only imagine Tom's like, "Oh, that was wonderful."
I don't watch those. I don't watch those anymore. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have like a heart attack one time watching it. It's like, it's like, what happened to Gerald? It's like, oh, did something happen? It's like, no, he was watching one of Tom's animated GIFs, and it gave him a scare. Yeah, he left this world.
All right, guys. We're looking at having to put down the pencils here in a couple minutes.
A couple minutes, okay. All right.
See, what's have you seen those? They're like the Japanese animated web comics. You scroll down, I think it's like the Bodon Jung Station, where it kind of you must have seen that. It's like a ghost story, but you scroll down a page and it starts coming to life on the website.
I probably.
Oh, you're gonna have to that needs to be a part of my life because that sounds awesome.
You say that now with confidence. I have seen them.
It's gonna end my life. It's not gonna be a part of my life.
You don't want it a part of your life.
I tell you, Thom, I guess now that you've done a lot of research now in terms of like international horror type stories. So what do you find? Do you find European versus or East versus West? Which is more? Can you say? I guess that's kind of like a big generalization, but do you find like Eastern versus Western like style of like folk horror folklore? Do you find one more horrific than the other, or do you have a feeling on that?
I mean, I think Eastern Europe, Eastern folklore as a whole is a lot more terrifying, just in terms of ghost stories. Definitely, maybe a bit more abstract, like more like floating heads, and kind of more like spirit ghosts, I guess.
Uh-huh.
In England, perhaps we used to have that in like medieval times. Then we took a very much more traditional approach. There's obviously like Charles Dickens and E.F. Benson started rewriting ghost stories. So yeah, I guess I'm a big fan of British ghost stories. I still think there's some. We've got some. We just built on blood. There's so many battles that happen here. But certainly, Eastern would probably just tip the scales. They are super scary.
Yeah, I just seem to think like I don't know if it's because of like in the last last decade or so that maybe a little bit longer than that because you're the authority. You can tell me when. It just seems like with The Ring and a lot of those other stories, it just seems like now there was just sort of the Korean and the Japanese horror stories have found their way to Hollywood, and and I have to say that the Western interpretations of some of those Japanese or some of those just Asian horrors just don't get you the same way. I don't know if maybe it's because I'm reading the subtitles and then I look up and I'm freaked out. I don't know, but it's like those subtitles, they're really scary. No, it's but I'm just saying that I think there's a sensitivity that's a little bit different. It's like it's just like looking at American cinema versus Eastern cinema. So you have toes or you have hands in both sides of that, being able to tell those stories. So that's interesting. I guess I'm gonna have to read some. Well, I don't know if I have to read more. If it's scarier, I don't know. I'm running out of a hard time sleeping. But if I have to like read, some of those European ghost stories with, bobbling heads that are just with no bodies going around my room, I don't know if I can handle that. But Joe, how much time do we have? Are we at?
Yeah, one more minute, and then we'll put it down. I'm just managing.
Do we get
some group stuff real quick?
Okay.
Let's see here.
So, Bri, I noticed your name was like Ghost. Is it Ghost Bri? I believe. So you've been. I guess that was just happy. Was that a happy coincidence that when Thom was looking for like, hey, I need somebody to do ghost stories. Oh look, Ghost Bri, and she draws well. What a coincidence! She's gonna love doing my work because I'm a winner. It's like so. So obviously with your Instagram handle is Ghost Bri. So you've always been a fan of like the horror genre too.
Yeah. Like
we have to shut down the challenge, and then you ask her a complex question. Let's bring up the art and then answer the questions we go.
I think she's knocked it out of the park. She doesn't need. She's probably like been finished like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. All right, let's pull it up, and then you can answer the question as we go over the artwork.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right. Cool.
I'm not looking.
Look at the work, Gerald.
Oh, is she done?
You're done. All the pencils are down. Pencils down.
I thought we still had a minute. Okay, all right.
That was a minute ago.
Oh, look at that.
I love it. It's very sick. Very good stuff. I love that's why I wanted Dead Man, because he can be done so many different ways, and it's Dead Man. That's pretty cool. And not being too familiar with him, that was a pretty good rendition. I do say so.
Thank you.
It's the eyes. It's the eyes. Like they're. They say the
thing about freaky eyes. I don't know what it is, but it is rolled right now.
It's like, what does Bri see when the lights turn off? I mean, she probably is like, oh, it's Dead Man, he's my friend, or oh, it's the Ring Ghost, she's my friend too. I'm the one who's probably like sleeping, on the floor because I don't want to, I don't know, with the covers over my head. She's like probably looking out all these like, Anyway, Bri, just awesome work. We look at, they say the eyes are the windows to the soul, and this tells a story too. It almost, what I like about this version of Dead Man, it's not, I'm going to say that my version of Dead Man was cliche. You look at this version of Dead Man, he almost looks, I wouldn't say that I was looking at, it looks angelic almost a little bit, but there's something a little obvious, like a dark angel, like if you look at like some of the interpretations of angels, they're not all like, if you read about some of the Gabriel, the angel, he can be vindictive, he can be, he can smite God's enemies down type things. And then, look at this and those hands too. It's like, you look at the top and he has almost like this halo around him, but it's a dark halo. Right. And then those eyes, and then you get down to his hands, and it's like, oh, look out for these hands. Ooh, that looks kind of weird.
What's also very cool about it, Bri, is like you've got a style that's yours, but you also are very versatile, so that's pretty cool. I'm trying to remember what the artist is that did Hellboy. Like he's really known for that.
Oh, Mignola, Mike Mignola.
Mike Mignola. So like he's super famous, but like if you were to put him on like a Wolverine book, people are like no, it didn't work. Because but his interpretations of characters are so striking. Like you either really like it, or somehow, no matter what character he takes on, he's going to put his own spin on it. So super dig this. This is awesome. I'm not a huge Dead Man fan. I kind of pulled it out of the thin air, but I've always been fascinated by creator-owned characters and in the business, and it was one of the first ones. Yeah. So good stuff.
Yeah, if DC is.
Are we ready to make Gerald cry now? And
wait, before we do that, I want to say if DC is watching, you need to hire Thom and Bri to do Dead Man, because this is a fresh look on Dead Man.
Do it.
Fresh look on Dead Man. It doesn't really go together, but it's a dead look on Dead Man. I don't know. It looks good. But anyway, let's show mine so we can get to the next challenge. We're just going to show it for like a second, really fast. So, you want to solo it really quick, or do you want me to do it?
I got it.
Okay. All right. So I did like the typical I guess more of a cliche thing. And he actually looks like he's like, did I smell something funny? I don't know. But I tried to make him look a little emaciated, give him, but yep. I totally went a typical route. And I think I envisioned, the shadows and the inking of this to actually make it look more creepy. Unfortunately, I'm not a very good inker or colorist. So maybe I'll get around to making it a little bit tighter. And if Bri has, in her copious amount of free time, maybe she can color it and make it look better than it is. So anyway, and we're gonna move that off the thing. So let's.
Well, I know we wanted to push it to the end, but these guys are drawing along with us. We've got 3 artists. We got 3 pieces. So let me throw an audible real quick.
Yes.
And share our art show page.
Oh, somebody already did a
So he jumped into the Batman and the Dead Man, so he knew Batman.
Look at that.
Cool.
Very cool. That is from Bob Heron.
Oh, Bob was a guest on our show before too. So Bri and Thom, you got some of our former independent creators that were on our earlier shows that are fanning over everything that you guys are doing. Oh, and look at this.
And this is from Rick.
Remember Rick?
This one's very handsome.
Yes, he's the debonair dead man.
It's like
debonair dead man. Well done with the D. Very good, very good. All right, cool.
All right, okay, good. I thought you said there were 5 people. I guess
I saw 3. I always round up. I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, it's 2 or 5. Okay, great.
Yeah, whatever.
We're gonna get some.
We also got the boo. Yeah. That was also from Rick, but that doesn't count.
Okay. Super scary boo there. Between Bri eye, the glowing eyes, and I see that Pac-Man ghost. I'm just not going to be able to sleep. So anyway, we're going to go into our rounding out into our 3rd challenge here. And so, during our pre-show yesterday, I was talking to both Thom and Bri, and we were trying to figure out what would be our 3rd drawing challenge. And usually, sometimes we do another IP. But we definitely talked a lot of ghosts, and Bri was saying, well, let's do something that is a mutual inspiration or a mutual character that both her and Thom were really drawn to. And when we were talking, and then she goes, I like Batman, and then Thom was like, I like Batman, and I go, I like Batman. We all like Batman. Batman for you, for you, and so. And I think this is going to be a unique opportunity because, I'm ready to see what kind of version of Batman that Bri is going to do. And Thom, if you feel so inclined, draw your version of Batman. You could just show it on the screen. I imagine that you have a unique idea of what Batman is going to look like. Now we can do any type of Batman. It's our interpretation of it, and there's tons of styles. Everything from Bruce Timm to Neil Adams that we were talking about to Jim Lee, the modern version. And of course, we can always do the Batfleck. We could do Ben Affleck. So there's tons of costumes and iterations of him. So we're going to do our 3rd drawing challenge, and I encourage all of our viewers, if you want to draw along, let's do Batman.
I'm not going to draw along with Batman, but I do have an old drawing I did of Batman 3 years ago, and I'll just pop it up on the screen.
Oh yeah, you do that.
Batman in his glory.
You didn't even have to tell us. You could just say, "Oh, and I drew this in 15 minutes," and it's like this.
Yeah. It's already in a frame. Hanging up.
Yes, in fact, it's been sold.
I went to the store. I already sold it.
All right, so here we are. We are at 256. This is round. We'll do Joe's math and round it up to the.
There you go, Joe math.
Joe math, and let's go ahead and do Batman. So while Bri and I'm gonna let Bri talk about why she likes Batman too, but we'll start with you, Thom. You tell us a little bit about what drew you. Oh, I'm so full of puns. Tell us a little bit about what you like about Batman. I mean, just the mic is yours. Just tell us about it.
Oh, I guess I remember watching like the early Adam West program when I was really young, and I really loved that. But then, which I was totally eclipsed by Burton's, which for me still remain like totally. I love Christopher Nolan's version. I absolutely love The Dark Knight, but they filmed quite a lot of it quite near me, like for Batman Begins. But yeah, absolutely, Michael Keaton. I'm so excited to hear that they're supposedly bringing him back as part of the multiverse.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask you about what you think about the multiverse, but it sounds like you're accepting it as. I think from a writing standpoint, don't you think it's a little lazy to like say, hey, we're just gonna make it a multiverse, and that's how everything is gonna die?
Oh, sure.
Okay, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about. Okay, you're talking about the Nicholson Keaton Batman, so tell us about that.
Yeah, like we watched Batman Returns just before Christmas, and it's still like up there as like one of the best Christmas films in my eyes, anyway. And it's just perfect. You've just got the best villains. The pacing's fantastic. It's so creepy. I'd just love to have known more about that whole universe. I know initially Burton was planned to do a Two-Face for the third film, and then he fell out with Warner's, and then we got Batman Forever, and then we got the atrocity of Batman and Robin that no one talks about. But I heard there were rumors for a while that they were doing a comic series based on that original universe, and I would love to have seen that. I think that would be really exciting. Yeah, definitely. But sorry.
No, go ahead. Keep on going.
No, 100% up for anything that brings back Keaton as an older Batman. Is what I've been hoping for ages. Yeah, you're right. I totally agree. It does sound really lazy writing, but I'm just personally, I'm not at all invested in like the Snyderverse. I just don't get that incarnation of Batman at all. It's just like that kind of, you've got Wayne Manor in ruins, and you've got like him. Everyone's really sad and moody, and it's. I know. I want something that kind of harks back to the heyday of,
I agree with you. It's sort of like if you look at the Keaton Batman era, or during that time, it was kind of like that balance between modernizing it, but it still had that Cesar Romero. It had the Biff Pow, Batman type things. And of course, I'm sure that you probably are when no one's looking, you're dancing, you're doing the bat dance with in the background there. But I think that you're right. And then all of a sudden, it's like it was the hip thing to make your hero brooding and make him dark, make it's everybody gives Zack Snyder a hard time. I actually think Zack Snyder was just probably misunderstood. A lot of his stuff, he has a place in a lot of the superhero storytelling, but you're right. I think all of a sudden everything had to be dark. Everything had to be, and it was. I think that's why movies like Shazam. I think Shazam was a nice departure from changing a little bit of when superhero movies could be a little fun, too. Yeah. I'm waiting for the next iteration or the next movie of Shazam. I think that was one of the better DC entries and things like that. But in terms of Batman too, it's like Bri. Not to take away from your time, because I know that you're still going to do an awesome drawing no matter how much I talk. You want to tell us about why you like Batman?
I feel like after you guys were like, yeah, I don't like the dark and brooding one, I like the funny, silly ones. I was like, oh, I am not good company right now.
Oh, I like the dark brooding one.
Yeah, it's all about the brooding ones. Yeah.
I love the darker side of Batman. Like I like him as a character, but I feel like a lot of my interest comes from the worlds and the villains that they create.
Yeah, he has a really good rogues gallery, right?
Yes, they're so fun. It's like my favorite Batman villain is Scarecrow by far, because he's like the whole thing is fear, right?
Uh-huh.
Super
Of course he is. Now
Yeah.
it makes complete sense that you would like Scarecrow. Okay, yeah. Keep on going. Yeah.
So my first Batman media was I'm not sure if it was the Bruce Timm cartoon or another one. It was the one with the really scary Scarecrow where he's like just a shadow face and like a really deep voice. I forget which one it is, but that was like so evocative to me. And then I forgot about it for a while. And then Batman Begins came out and I was like, "It's my boy. He's back."
Yeah, you're right.
And that kind of like revived my interest in the series.
So what did you think of the, I know that you're a gamer too. I mean, there's so many, what's not to love about Bri? So you're a gamer too. What did you think of the Arkham Asylum games? Did you play those? And where they had the Scarecrow?
Are they considered the Arkham Knight games, or are they considered the Arkham Asylum games?
Yeah,
because Arkham Asylum was the first one.
Right.
I think they're called Arkham Knight games. I don't know.
You're right. I think you're right. It's the Arkham series.
Hairs here, but
yeah, and the Scarecrow, he had like syringes.
Yeah.
On his hand. I was like, wow, that was really creepy as well. What did you think, Bri? Did you like that variation of the Scarecrow?
I did. I mean, I like him no matter what. There's like not an iteration of Scarecrow that I don't like. I even watched like Gotham, the TV series, where he disappears for like most of the show and then comes back with a different actor. And I was like, I'm all for it. I want to see my boy. I'm pretty easy to please.
Yeah, now I think about it. Yeah, Scarecrow is one of those characters. Like he did get a lot of love, I guess, in the video games, and like you see in the Christopher Nolan ones. I like how they did this whole variations. Like when you got to see what if people took the Scarecrow's fear-inducing gas, how it would make Batman appear. I tell you, that was probably one of the most creepiest Batman.
Yeah, when he goes into his the morgue and finds there.
Yeah, it's like demon.
It still resonates. Like,
yeah, I think Bri might have helped design that one because his eyes is all black. I mean, it was like these little beady eyes.
Oh yeah.
And he had like he was all black. It was like Batman Beyond, because Batman Beyond, this is more of my geek stuff here. Is like he's all his face is all black. But they did this variation. It's the Nightmare Batman, and his face is all black, and he has like sharp teeth and these beady little red eyes. And that's kind of like the whole Batman thing is that he wants to instill fear in. That's how he intimidates his the villains and stuff like that. And it was so neat to see that kind of interpretation. Like if you inhaled that Scarecrow's fear gas, how would you see Batman? And I just loved how, when the city was all in chaos, they showed, when Batman is swinging from rooftop to rooftop, he looks like a real bat that's like flying, through the sky. So I thought that was a brilliant.
I thought it was interesting that it was talked about, well, what makes a really good, like what the best thing about Batman is his villains. And I've had conversations, I've nerded out with this like all day long, and I'll try not to get on my soapbox about this stuff. But it is interesting that it's like some of the best. And of course, I have a car go by when I'm talking. One of the best two characters probably in comics, it could be debated, but Marvel has Spider-Man as probably its flagship character, and DC, whether they like it or not, Batman's their flagship character. Mm-hmm. And they both have rogue galleries that help define the hero for various reasons, but they all have sort of like their thing. And I mean, for me, I thought it was interesting. But for me, my favorite villain for Batman is Mr. Freeze. And I think that they're all so complicated and layered, but Mr. Freeze is almost not even a villain. It's very it's cool. It's cool. But yeah, as far as Batman Begins, Batman Beyond, I think I'm gonna end up being like an old man Batman before I even get it on screen. Like that's how I'm so frustrated that they haven't figured that out. You've got the actors that played him in the 80s. You've got any character, but what was it? The new Batman guy? He could have easily played the kid in the show. Like that's too easy. There's so much there, and you just missed it. You're so close, so close. But no, huge Batman fan. I think
to Tom's credit, him being a big Keaton fan, weren't they toying around with? I mean, you talked about it, right? About how
Right.
he's
Yeah.
going to come back as the old man Batman, right? Or I guess
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's in the news at the moment. I know it was like a nod to it in, wasn't there like the Flash when in the TV series?
It's like a weird Flashpoint paradox thing, but also this thing, like they're doing the same thing they did with the Justice League movie, where not the Justice League, the Batman vs Superman, where they're gonna smash together too much stuff and it's not gonna work.
Yeah. Well,
it's a fear. It's a fear because it's just like such a fan, and I'm worried I'm gonna be crying and leaving the theater going, "They were so close." They were so close.
So Tom, I'm going to ask you a little question here about you being a big Keaton fan. What did you think of and Joe was mentioning Spider-Man from Marvel. What did you think of Keaton being in Spider-Man? Was it Homecoming? It was Homecoming. And
it was Homecoming.
Where he played Vulture. What did you think about Keaton in that, Tom?
I thought it was great, and it's kind of funny, isn't it? Because he's like Vulture, he's like Birdman.
He plays birds.
He's not quite that. Yeah, I thought he was great, and he played that really. Again, that was a complicated character where doing stuff to obviously keep his family, get the money and stuff, rather than just being an out and out villain. Which I thought was cool. He was really good, and I'm interested to see how Marvel now do the multiverse they're talking about with all the Spider-Men.
I know, isn't that crazy? Where they were going to bring Andrew Garfield and Toby, what's his name, Maguire? And then they're gonna, of course, they have Tom Holland, fellow Brit, who really totally. I think it's hard to believe when I hear him in interviews and he talks like he normally does in his native tongue. I'm like, wow, he got his accent
native
down.
Tongue? You mean like his accent?
Yeah, well, I was like, that's his I just thought he was an American. I didn't know Tom Holland before. I thought and so,
all the greatest male actors in Hollywood right now that sound like they're American are probably British.
Oh, so
or
Australian.
From Australia.
So I'm waiting for Tom to say, actually, on the side when he's not writing, he's actually doing his own MCU. He's because he's from England too, so he's working on his American accent so he can do his latest installment. So as a writer, let's talk some other geek stuff. We talked about Batman, of course, and what they're going to do. What do you think about that craziness that's going on with the latest version of Batman? With the what's his name? He's another English actor. I think I want to say Cedric or the sparkly vampire. I don't know. Yes. So what do you think about that iteration? There's a lot of rumors going around why it's kind of like been in production limbo, COVID and all that other stuff. But I heard there's a little bit of drama in terms of his acting too. So what do you think? Do you think he's a good Batman?
It's way too early to say, but that looks amazing. That looks so cool. I saw the trailer and I'm really interested to see that whole version of Matt Reeves' interpretation. I love the shots of like him on the Batbike going through a graveyard. I think he shot that in like Scotland before COVID broke out.
Right.
But yeah, and the actor playing Penguin just looks absolutely unrecognizable. I've completely forgotten his name.
Yeah.
The Irish actor.
Is that it?
It's the Irish actor who, I'm trying to think what else he's been in. He was Bullseye in the really bad Daredevil.
I know.
Colin Farrell, isn't it?
Colin Farrell, yep.
Yeah. He looks amazing. His makeup's insane.
Yeah, I've been trying to avoid. I mean, I actually have not seen that picture of Colin Farrell, but I think Colin Farrell is another actor that they were like going to make him like the next Brad Pitt or whatever, and he kind of faded and then came back, and then I don't know. I guess this could be his second
big
coming.
return.
I guess. Yeah, his big return, 'cause he was in those not Harry Potter, the Fantastic Beasts. He was, of course. Maybe they're gonna. I heard Johnny Depp is exiting from the Fantastic Beasts, so maybe whatever that was such a convoluted story. I was just like watching it. I was like, who's this? What is that? How are they related? But maybe they're gonna have to have, since Johnny Depp left, maybe he has to like go back into his old disguise where he was Colin Farrell, and maybe Colin Farrell can come back in there. But I always thought Colin Farrell was a really. I thought he was a pretty good actor.
He's good leading man. Good leading man. It's just one of those things that happens sometimes that people don't go to your movies. They don't go enough, or you kind of fall off.
Right.
I liked him. The only movie I don't think I ever liked him in was the remake of Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie where he goes to Mars.
Oh, Total Recall. Yeah.
Total Recall, yeah. I didn't like his remake on that, but that wasn't even his fault. Like, that was the director and the production. Yeah. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. I just didn't like the movie.
I have to agree with you.
Shot by shot, the same exact movie. If you're gonna make a new movie, change it up.
Right.
Same thing with Lion King. I'm gonna make some enemies here saying that, but
yeah. I was gonna say that when they did the movie version of Cats, oh my gosh. I actually didn't watch it.
Go to the theater and watch Cats.
I was like, I'm a big fan of the Broadway Cats, and I tell you that movie just didn't do it justice. No, I'm just joking. I didn't watch that movie. I could care less. Mulan, though, oh my gosh, I don't even want to go in terms of what they did with Mulan.
I don't know. I was 80% happy with Mulan.
What?
20% frustration, but 80% was fine.
No, Mulan was a shoot. And then they put Ming-Na Wen came back to do a cameo, and I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. That's where they put her? Anyway, how are we doing on time? Are we?
We should be. It is 2:12 my time.
2:12.
So we're overtime, big time.
Are we overtime? Because
we've been on for 2 hours and 12 minutes.
Oh yeah. But our time, we started at the top of the hour. So if we're gonna get 15 minutes, we got 3 more minutes.
All right.
All right.
I don't think we started at the top of the hour.
I'm saying that, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
So, just because I know that I'm going to need that extra time to have something decent to show or whatever. So let's talk a little bit about. We talked about Batman and with Thom in terms of like what other characters influenced you, like whether they horror characters or like are you a fan of like Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees? I mean, are those just like travesties? You're like, oh, those are just hack and slash. They're not tragic, ghosts that are tormented and things like that. I mean, do you like that genre as well? Like the
sure, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I love the classics, and as you say, Jason, Halloween,
right?
And it's I suppose the only thing recently I think that's comparable is like the Blumhouse universe, what they're doing with their movies.
Oh yes,
I think they're really cool. I really respect the fact that what they've done is they've taken the Marvel approach of slowly building up these characters, and they really invested a lot of time into making these things as scary as possible.
Right.
But yeah, no, totally. I'm really excited to see where the DC film universe goes into, because I know there's talk of like Justice League Dark, which it's been discussed for years. Like Del Toro was involved and a load of other people, but it seems feasible that we might actually get like a film version of it, like Swamp Thing, Dead Man, Constantine. That'd be amazing. So
and I wouldn't even want them to swing all the way to the fences with that. Like, now that we have HBO Max, like, make a movie standalone, maybe a slightly smaller budget with great talent. That would be a great film to watch. I would love it. And then it obviously would blow up, and then they'd make a movie after that.
Absolutely. And they're doing Sandman, aren't they, at the moment, a TV series of that. So,
I'm curious how they could pull that off, because Neil Gaiman, I mean, I don't know how they're going to pull off some of the visuals. And you mentioned Constantine. Some of the CG effects are kind of like whatever, but Keanu Reeves and as Constantine, I thought he was good. And I don't know.
Oh, he's coming back as Constantine. They're bringing him back.
Oh, they are.
Well, all right, guys, 15. I think it's time that we shut this down.
Okay. All right. Okay.
We've got one piece of art in the art show community.
Okay, let's show that first, then.
Okay. All right. We got one piece here. Boom. Let me see if I can figure out what I'm doing here. I have to keep bringing up and down because I have poor connectivity, so please bear with me.
Okay, just building up the suspense to when I see Bri's piece. Oh my gosh, who did this?
Bob Heron again. So he did two pieces.
He had time to do 2?
Yeah, he sketched that one out fairly quickly.
Bowing down to how fast you are. Maybe you want to do some work with Thom. Maybe some fast things as well. Oh, where did Was that it?
No, I put it down because I wanted to show it. All right, so I'm gonna go next since I'm just the guest host. I guess we'll go up the ladder here.
Okay, let me show. I'm gonna show Breeze because I'm excited.
Well, you.
I'm gonna just bow my head in shame. Look at that.
Amazing.
And you know, this reminds me of it has that Batman Year One. I don't know if you read the Year One, but this is all Breeze. I like the interpretation. What I like about this too is it's his cowl or covering his eyes. It usually comes down to here, but you made it like up higher, but made the part where it covers of his nose point down. So it's like it's, you know how Joe, when you see all these different versions of Batman, it's like people will either emulate the Jim Lee Batman, which I kind of tried to do, and then you get like people like Bri who just does their own thing. It's like Sesame Street. Which one of these kids is doing their own thing? And that's Bri. I just love it. Joe, you have any thoughts on this? I mean, look, she put some textures in there too.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Brian actually hit it out of the park because when I was watching Bri working on this, it really is. It looks very similar to both the original character that was originally drawn by was it Tom King?
Bob King.
Bob King.
Yeah.
Bob King.
Well, he was one of the creators. I don't know if he originally drew it, but that's why I said the year.
Oh yeah, he was. I think he created it. You're right. And then also with Year One.
Yeah, Year One.
It's got those elements in there that are really cool. And also, I love the hunching of the shoulders with the slight. And I'll drop this, but I wanted everyone to see this comment because this was commented while you were drawing. I just thought it was really insightful. And then the slight hunching of the shoulders. It's like the perfect Batman like pose.
I know. I can't even do it. And I like. Is that like
he does like a chest up sort of thing? But Batman is more like forward leaning and almost hunched over, like because Batman's kind of pretty much insane, and he's also tired and exhausted, but sheer will lets him keep moving forward. So that's always a good pose to have him in.
Is that shadow or is that look like, or is that blood like he's been in a fight?
A little blood, a little bit of blood.
Oh, see, yeah. And, I think it's almost like it does kind of have that new Batman vibe of that new movie that's coming out. It kind of has that, but it has the old school. If you were to add the collar to it, like that's what they're doing with this Batman. It's like Gotham by Gaslight collar type style Batman instead of the cowl that goes all the way down, past the to the shoulders. But yeah, man. I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to be up late because I won't be able to sleep. So I might as well go ahead and try and like measure up to Bri. I'm inspired just looking at all this artwork. So cool. So very cool.
Let me take the reins for a second. We got one other one that wanted to participate. This is a specific Batman style that's completely different than either one of you guys did.
Oh, that's so pretty. That's awesome. Is that from Rick?
That's Rick's.
Rick. I think you should submit that to a Funko Pop or one of those things. But I have to tell you, that classic Bat insignia there, that's the Michael Keaton Batman's insignia.
Yes, it is. Yep.
I think that was definitely that was a shout out to you, Tom. I think he Rick picked up on that and he said, you know what, I'm gonna do the Keaton version of that. So we have Molly Mock here saying Tom could probably teach me how to draw something. Yes. So
Tom, do you have a piece of artwork?
Yeah, Tom is probably Tom's like Bri probably. He's probably like a closet artist. He just doesn't. Well, apparently, we talked about their process. In terms of how he would lay out, like he'd give a script and he would actually figure out how the sequentials are, so he could sort of like figure out how the pacing is. I think that Tom Winter is probably just like, he's probably like not showing his art. He's probably a really talented artist when he's not acting, working on his American accent in the background there too. So yeah, that was
of course.
Okay. So I guess we should just go ahead and I guess I'll show my.
You want to go first? Do you want me to show mine first?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's see.
I want you to. You're the host. So I want
go for it. Let's see Joe's. Now, Joe, remember he just whipped this out like.
Yeah, I just did this now, so no judgment. And I went to the store and bought a frame, put it in, and sold it.
Oh
wow!
Oh yeah.
So
I haven't even seen this.
3 years ago, 3 years ago. I love Batman. He's pretty cool. And this is a Jim Lee study, so I take no ownership over it, other than I just recreated it.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah. Jim Lee has always been an influence on a generation of artists, and I liked him back when he was doing Alpha Flight, and I don't think many people even remember him doing that. But
yep. All right, let's go. Let's see your stuff.
All right, so let me add mine to the stream, and let me solo it. And so, oops, did you solo it? We're both.
I will solo it.
Okay, you solo it. All right. So I kind of did the typical Jim Lee, running hunched shoulders, and actually I'm a big Art Adams fan, so you could probably put claws on him and he'd look like Wolverine instead of Batman. That just goes to show you how unoriginal my pose is. But let's just remove it. Yeah. Oh. I didn't mean to do that to you. When I hit remove, I didn't know it was going to solo you. But really, that was to capture Tom's look of disappointment when he thought that I was just doing pushing.
Wow, I thought Gerald was pretty good.
It's cool. That's very cool.
All right, thank you so much.
Body in there.
Yeah,
it's always hard to get stuff done very quickly. The 20 minute challenge is rough. It's rough.
Tough. It is tough. And I encourage you, Bri, please, if you want to do like some JPEGs of those or whatever, if you want to polish them up, I don't know why you'd want to polish them up. They look good already. But if you want to do any refinement to it and send it to us, we'll be more than happy to share that, on our Facebook page or our Instagram. So please do that. But this was so fun. You got to get in the mind of both Thom and Bri, learn a little bit about their creative synergy and be able to know about their process. We get to learn about the early haunts. We got to learn a little bit about they're fans of Batman, and we got a dungeon master. They're both D&D fantasy, the Dungeons and Dragons fantasy aspect. So just really great influence. I think that's the good thing about our show is that you don't just get to see the Kickstarter or pages of their art. You actually get to see what the genesis was and how they led up to that thing, and to see that relationship. And I can't speak for Joe, but I'm sure he agrees. It's been a pleasure to see that, But let's pull up. I want to show the actual Kickstarter page, because I talked a little bit about how, we talked about how they, where's Chrome tab? Okay, about the 800. I want to call it the 800. All right, so look at this. And if you look in the little corner here, it says 799 backers. But, I mean, that is impressive. Pledged. Now I read this at first at 25,000, and then these are pounds, or euros, right? Is this euros or pounds?
That's pounds, right?
Pounds, right?
Yeah. So that's about $1.7, I imagine, at this point, something like that.
I was gonna say it's like that's a healthy amount. And to me, it's also the backers, the 800 that I looked at. Nearly 800. If this campaign was still going on, I'd be one of the persons that would just get you over 800. I think that was it's like, I don't know who was if I had known about it, I would have got you over that. That way you could say 800. But yeah, that is so impressive. And I guess that just, to me, that's testament to like what you guys are doing. If anybody needed affirmation to know that you're doing the right thing. You're putting your energies and your talents are being put into something that people love. People are willing to put their hard-earned money. And I think that's the beauty of crowdfunding and indie creators, is that sure, it'd be great to pull in like those crazy numbers that you see, out of Marvel or DC or Image or IDW. But, these are people. It's a smaller platform, but these are people that have seen you guys and they're willing to invest their money directly to you. I think that's wonderful. I don't know. Did you guys have was this like a moment of a humbling experience when you realized nearly 800 people believed in you? I mean, what did you guys think when that campaign closed?
Yeah, sure. It was, it was a real gamble when I put it out there. I just, it was amidst the pandemic, just kind of starting. And I guess it was still a bit of a flux for everyone. And it's understandable a lot of people were, losing their jobs, and you're asking from people at a very difficult time. So, I was just extremely grateful that it met the initial target and surpassed it. So, but yeah, it's testament, to the artists involved and Bri's work, which it's got so many compliments from different backers. It really has helped it stand apart. But yeah, no, it's been great. It's been very, very stressful end of last year. But,
it's a good stress though. It's not the bad stress. And you're right. That also is another context for this, is that it was a successful campaign. You got nearly 800 people backing it, and in the midst of not everybody has disposable income that they can put behind their favorite, a campaign that means something to them, and you got nearly 800 people that are willing to do that. And I know we talked a little bit on the chat. Was there something that you wanted to? Was there a shout out that you wanted to talk to backers? Was there a bonus or something like that you wanted to talk about that backers we're going to get? Tom, is that maybe I misread it? What did you want to say something to the backers?
Nothing in particular. I mean, anyone that's backed it,
right.
they'll be eligible to get another story, which will be coming out hopefully by March this year. So yeah,
Okay.
the Hinton Abner one I mentioned before, the Turn of the Screw. So that will go free out to everyone that backed it.
Okay, so that's great.
Good job, Gerald. A bunch of viewers just all screamed in terror and happiness and then cried because they get nothing special.
No, they do. They get a bonus story. It's another tier. Don't do that to me. Anyway, I guess it has to do with reading comprehension. I was just reading. I was reading the text. It was early, and I was just scrolling through it, and I was talking to Tom, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I want to do this," and I guess I just misread it, and maybe it was me projecting. I was like, "Oh, well, we're gonna get something bonus out of it. I'm gonna talk to Thom Bri." Anyway, but yes, it's such. I encourage everybody to go check that out. Check out that. You can if you look at the bottom at Tom's, and hey, it's coming up right here in the scrolling bar. Contact him directly, and even though this campaign is over, you can. Rick, be quiet. See, but anyway, just go give Tom a shout out. Send him an email. He'll hook you up. You can be that 800th backer, and plus more. Because I want everybody that's viewing this page. Definitely, you're in for a treat. You're gonna read some really great stories, horror stories, scary stories, and you're gonna see some phenomenal art from Bri. I think it's gonna be it's a hit, and I can't wait until you do. Volume 2 all the way up to volume 200. You guys are welcome to come back on the show and promote the heck out of it. And if it isn't horror stories, if it's a Dungeons and Dragons story, if it's anything, Bri, I know that I'm anxious to see what your stories are, and I'm sure you can vibe with Tom Winter here and be able to get some focus group things, and he'll be able to guide you and be able to maybe we can see you crowdfund as well. I think it's going to be something that I'm going to look forward to in 2021. So this is the sad part of the show. We hit it's 2.5. Are we 2.5 hours, Joe? Is that right?
Yeah.
I told you time.
It's a long show. Before you shut down, though, I am curious about one thing, though. Has anyone ever do you get the Newman thing a lot? Does that happen, or is that a generational thing that you don't get?
I think I just missed it, luckily.
You're lucky. Yeah, you're very lucky.
Always on edge.
Yeah. A random old person comes up to you.
Well, Bri is going to be they're going to be they're going to be using Bri Neumann, not the Newman from Seinfeld thing. It's going to be a whole. Yeah. She's going to be setting up a new standard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Newman.
Perfect. I was just curious. I was okay, go ahead. That's totally off topic, but it made me think.
It's that's showing our age there in terms of the Seinfeld things. But okay, so we're at the part of the show where we call it the Oscar speech. Let me unstop the screen here, and hey, it's fitting you guys are on the top of the screen here. So it's the Oscar speech. It's the farewell. You can do the Sound of Music, so long, farewell. I don't know. You can do whatever you want. It's where we give you the opportunity to thank people or just your final thoughts. You can do your beauty pageant wave and wish for world peace if you want to as well. But I'm going to give it to Tom here. The mic is now yours. Give us your Oscar speech.
Wow. Thanks to everyone that's backed Eddie Haunts, and thanks especially to all the artists involved, David Ramiro, Michael Bryan, Brian Coldrick, and of course Bri Neumann for their absolutely amazing work. And if anyone is out there and wants a copy, you can still get hold of them right now. And it's also, it should say it's augmented reality. So if you want to get a book that's haunted and you can scan panels and different panels come alive with the free app, then yeah, do so. But yeah, amidst the pandemic, just keep supporting indie Kickstarters, because there's loads and loads of great campaigns out there at the moment. And yeah, it's worth supporting so many different creators.
Well said. Well said. Bri.
Yeah, thank you to all the backers who backed it, people who are posting photos on social media of pages they like or stories they like. Really means a lot to me. Thank you, Thom, for having me, for asking me to work on such a cool project. I had a blast, and I hope we can work together in the future. For today, thank you to my friends and family who tuned in. I saw your guys' comments while I was drawing. Thanks to my mom who just posted a comment. My sister, Tiffany, Mira, my aunt. Hi, if you're here, hello. She's also in England. And thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much.
You guys are awesome.
That was great.
That was me
It
trying
was
to
a lot of fun. Thanks for being on the show. It was just, it's a blast just to draw with people and hang out and chat. And I try not to go too far into the nerd, chasm, because I don't come out. So I try to rein myself in a little bit. But I was like, they're drawing Batman?
And she's a dungeon master. Oh my gosh, Batman Dungeon Master ultimate combo. Yeah. It was a treat. And I look forward to, hey, look at this. We got Miranda Lung saying we love Bri. And we love her too.
Love you too.
Yeah. So it was a treat. And this is the way that I want to begin 2021, with phenomenal guests and phenomenal independent creators. It lacked Rick, though.
So just for the record, Rick is absolutely lying. It did not lack Rick. Rick did get on the show. For the record, if you missed the beginning or middle portion of the show, you got to go watch it again if you guys are just
I know. Rick found his way into the show, so he got to skirt responsibility and just sort of make an appearance. So, and he tried to overtake your challenge. I don't know what's up with that. You're gonna have to
We're gonna have to
Denmark and just do Biff Pow classic.
I actually like that idea. If he just wants to come on and randomly do a challenge, he just be the challenge man.
It's like no one cares, but I want to issue a challenge that no one has to do. Okay, so. But anyway, thank you so much. And yeah, we really, really appreciate you guys. And so that being said, we want to close our show with one last thing. And it's been a bit of a tradition here, because we want to basically talk about a charitable organization that is near and dear to us. They don't tell us to do this, but we do it because we love them and we know that they're a great cause. So that particular charity is, and we're gonna show their social media handles one more time. But this particular charity is Gold in Fight, and let me pull up their website. Hold on one moment. And I think I would have this at. I have a button that would just say, "Hey, go."
Well, normally I would help, but because I'm in Missouri, I'm behind.
Right. So this is Golden Fight. Golden Fight is an organization that I like to call that is big enough and small enough. They're small enough in the sense that they are not nationwide. They actually are a very focused outreach that is just in my neck of the woods, which is the Mid-Atlantic region of the East Coast of the United States. So it's like Virginia, Washington, Delaware, Maryland, this whole little area. And so what that allows them to do is they can put 100% of they can be very focused with their approach. And that approach is where they're big enough. They got big hearts. And what their organization is about is helping families that are dealing with, or that have children that are dealing with sometimes very serious, sometimes terminal illnesses, and that's like cancer. And this is also their big hearts, is that what money they do raise, which is like, I would say 98% of that goes to the families. So like when they are dealing with healing, focusing on the healing of their child, financial difficulties will occur. And that's where they come in, they help with that. And of that money that they do raise, 97% of that goes directly to the family. That 2 or 3%, which is very nominal, that just goes to cover administrative things. Often a lot of their leadership, they do this voluntarily because they've had either family members or friends that have gone through the same experience. So great organization, big hearts, big enough, small enough, They are just a phenomenal organization. So I encourage everybody, if you want to just check out Golden Fight, it's more about just awareness. We're not asking you or to do anything. We just want you to be aware of a great organization, and if it's in your means and you want to figure about donating, this is one of them. So let me get that out of the way.
That being said, I put that in the chat. The only reason that we partnered with them, I don't want to say we're partners as far as two businesses, but he's just a friend of mine that I worked with, and he's been putting a lot of heart and love into this, and all of it goes to the kids except administrative costs that just have to get paid. So the links are in the chat. If you guys want to go there and check it out, no pressure at all. Just every single time we do this show, we make sure that we do a shout out for them. So it was a great show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the content and learned something from it, please consider subscribing. If you're on YouTube, if you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube and subscribe to Indie Comics Cast, and hit the bell for notifications. We go live. Right now, we're going live once a week on Sunday, but we will be, as we go into 21, we'll be adding at least one more live show. So subscribe there. Let's build the channel up so that we can help independent creators get the biggest net possible when they communicate with indie media organizations like ourselves and others. So all right, that's all I got, Gerald. It's your show, man.
Hey, amen to that. I can't follow up with anything better than that. But once again, look at the scroll bar here. Show some love to both Bri and to Thom. Support Early Haunts. Even though the campaign is closed, you can still get it. So just reach out to Thom, and I only showed bits and pieces of it, so you won't know the whole story until you won't figure out what the Dish Mansion is all about, what those dishes mean, until you subscribe. I mean, buy the book and stuff like that. And like I said, look forward in 2021. They're going to be doing more work. Bri has some projects, top secret stuff. Hush hush. I'm gonna get her to spill the beans and tell me to move out of it. But Thom is already talking about additional stories that he already has in the works. So look out for them in 2021. They're going to be
right. So just for the record, if Bri goes off and gets big with Disney and gets like this big interview or whatever,
she's big already.
I'm going to be like, Newman.
My first time.
He's going to go, huh? That's not how you say my name. Bri is at Disney, so maybe if she's lucky, what she'll do in the background, Bri, it would be an honor if you can like in one of your buildings, you can put like caricatures of just me and Joe and Thom. We'll be like in some window, like looking over, and you can just hide us in the background. Let us know when that episode debuts, and I can like say that's what the character needs to move, and I'll be like pausing it, trying to pop. Anyway, that'd be really cool. So when you think of backgrounds, appreciate them, because people like Bri make it happen. They put you in the scene. They establish it. They make you want to cry. They make you want to jump for joy. You guys are awesome. I just want to let you know. So you're welcome anytime. So that being said, Comics Cast, let it out. We're signing out. I don't know. I didn't even come up with a better catchphrase than that. But we will see you next Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love you guys. Keep on drawing. Bye-bye.
Welcome to the show. This is Comics
You guys are all watching the Artist Roundtable.
Hey everybody, it's Gerald and Jason with Comics Cast. Let it out.
Thanks for having me again, man. I appreciate it.
This just comes from watching Lord of the Rings too much, basically. And
Thank you.